in.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for our game to begin. G'day, fellas, and welcome to a very special casted game. Spawning in on the south side of the map, we have got TheMista in the color blue, playing as the English. On the opposite side of the map, there spawns a player who I'm unfamiliar with. So, Lidakor, you're going to have to tell me a little bit about who we've got up here.
We got B coming in, using the French in the red color, a player that we didn't really see as a top contender for a long time, but the last couple of weeks, he really stepped up his game. He's an out-of-the-box thinker. He's the type of guy that can surprise you because in many ways he's playing off meta, and he's just dangerous to anybody because of that. He took down Hera in Winner Stays On, then took down Doubt, and today he's in here for a chance to qualify for N4C. He would probably be the biggest surprise of a qualifier. Being in there in the top 8 at N4C would be just an absolutely brutal accomplishment for someone that really wasn't even on our charts 2 or 3 weeks ago.
And I think that's a really good point to make, that he's such an out-of-the-box thinker. This guy, he sort of came up on my radar a couple of months ago, I would say, just because of the Chinese play that he was doing. This is back when China was a weak civilization, or at least perceived as a weak civilization. And B was the only guy who was playing it repeatedly at the top level and making it work. I remember a game on Hill and Dale that he played where he just played out of his mind. And yeah, I was a big fan of him back then. I'm a big fan right now. But you know who else I'm a big fan of? It's TheMista. He spawns on the other side, and I'm so excited to be watching his game because this is it, as you mentioned. The winner of this series, this is a best of 7 series, is going to be going through to Berlin. Going to be fighting for their chance at the prize pool, $100,000. And already, we see a little bit of similarities between the build orders. We've got the double scout opening coming out for TheMista, double scout opening for B, and no player really looking towards aging up just yet. You can see that both of them pretty streamlined builds, though.
You mentioned that, indeed, this is one of these players' ticket to Berlin, but it also means that the other player will have no more chance of qualifying. Mista was so close last week, he lost to Vortex 4-2. So now, if he fails to qualify again, that's going to be a heartbreaker for him. Whereas for B, he can go into the set sort of just YOLO this one, because I don't think that B himself considered it a possibility for him to qualify for N4C. He obviously gave it a shot, but it was an uphill battle for him. So from a certain perspective, B doesn't have as much pressure on him as Mista has.
I agree 100%. I definitely think that Mista would be feeling the pressure at the moment. Mista yet to see a victory at an S-tier tournament and has come into Age of Empires 4 as somewhat of a titan. People before Age of Empires 4, probably only small communities would be familiar with his name. People in Age of Mythology, in Age of Empires 3 as well, would be familiar with him. He was quite a titan in that game, no pun intended. But when he came into Age of Empires 4, obviously Genesis came around. Mista landed in 2nd position going up against Viper. I'm sure you guys remember that game on Hill and Dale, that final game. I think it was, oh gosh, I can't remember the matchup at Abbasid. I want to say Abbasid versus something. But now we see him once again fighting to get into this tournament. So hopefully we'll see him pull out all stops today, because this is it. Make it or break it.
Exactly, and as you said, Mista's the type of guy that always has been there at the top, but never really was able to reach that first place. But he's a super hardworking guy, just a very nice personality as well. So I don't think there's a single person on this world that isn't cheering for Mista. There is, of course, a lot of B fans around there as well, but I think no matter what happens, people will be disappointed if one of these two people will have to miss out on N4C.
Yeah. Look, I am going to be disappointed that both of these guys don't get to come. The set that they've actually come from was incredibly stacked. There were so many people in this set. I remember yesterday looking at Don Artie, and he actually sent me a message. He said, okay, this is my run. And it was like TheMista, 3DB, all of these insane people that are in the set. Zerton, just absolute, like everybody in his set was just like top 50 players. TheMista himself actually went up against a player by the name of Lidakor. Do you remember exactly what the name was? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting who it was.
Nevix and also Brew, but we don't have really a lot of time to talk about that because Mista is now coming in with some aggression, starting to harass those gold miners over here. So we've been talking for 5 minutes about these players, and suddenly there is some action coming in for us.
In addition to that, I guess we can talk a little bit about the game and how it's going to unfold. But before we do go into that, I just want to say, Mista has had an incredible run. He's been up against very talented players. He's only dropped one game so far. It was against Nevix, I think was ranked 60. So Viper, obviously, an incredibly good player. He doesn't have to deal with that because he's just gone straight through. Whereas Mista, he's going to be struggling down here. So he's definitely feeling the pressure. But let's talk a little bit about how this matchup is going to unfold. So we've got an English versus French game on our hands here. Already we see 3D that is throwing down Blacksmith, but he cancels it, interestingly enough. Spotting out the barracks from his opponent as well. So he does know that the barracks is out. So we might see a potential archery range coming down. Indeed we do. Archery range is going to be the way that he looks to go.
I mean, he needs to go for archer range over here because he needs something that deals with spearmen. English will always pick the spearmen in addition to their longbows when you're going against the French. And thinking about this matchup, this is one of those matchups that Mista loves to play, and he loves his English on Arabia. He was the one that last week tried the horseman play. Now, this is going to be a spearman longbow play, but if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be very heavy on the farming. He already has 3 farms. And what he did in yesterday's sets was that he basically went just defensive spears and a couple of longbows, focus heavily on the farming, and just go for a fast castle play, and his fast castle was blazing fast. So I'm curious to see if that's going to be the play over here for Mista again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got for us today. It's the double stable that he's going to be opening up. The classic English double stable is coming out, and I think this is such a smart move. Now, this is where I start to theorize about the Abbey of the King and about where it could have potentially been insane. Because going up against this, obviously Mista, he's got the council hall. He doesn't really want to make longbows though. Now, obviously his opponent is going to be scouting him out. He's going to see that council hall right there, so he's going to know it's always a potential option. And as a result, B is going to open up with some some knights himself. But now we see the archers coming out, looking like they're going to be in force. And Mista, he's managing to keep these stables out of line of sight from his opponent, at least for now.
And indeed, as you said, the Abbey of the Kings in theory would be very useful for a cavalry play. Usually the reason why you go for the Council Hall regardless of that is because the Council Hall gives you an option, a window to make longbows if you need them. But as you see, Mista is not popping out a single cavalry unit. He's playing very defensive and already dropping a lot of farms. He's actually using the most effective farming layout for a single mill. This way you can fit 10 farms into the radius instead of 8. So as you see, he's going to have 2 more farms being dropped close to those berries. And he's probably just going to try and rush Castle Age here because he was able to repel those couple of knights at the beginning, and B isn't really sending in a ton of archers right now, just not coming in with that blacksmith.
Yeah, Bing doing a pretty good job at the moment. He has picked up that chivalry for his Royal Knights. They're going to be starting to heal up as well. Got a couple of scouts out. We'll do a quick stock take and just double check exactly what techs they've got through. At the moment, B doesn't look like he's picked up anything from the mill, anything from the mining camp, anything from the lumber camp. He is, however, researching +1 melee defense from his blacksmith. So that appears to be the first tech of the game that is coming through. And he's also looking to expand out towards the berry bushes on the north side of the map. But I'm curious to see what Mista's managed to go for so far. So he's actually picked up the wheelbarrow technology already. So this is something that we've seen English players continue to do more and more often. Going for that English tech, or going for that wheelbarrow tech, makes a lot of sense playing as the English. You're going to get great return on investment, especially with these early farms.
And he's also adding quite a lot of horsemen, so it looks like he's not going to go for a fast castle after all. Instead, he wants to go for a very aggressive feudal age, and this could be dangerous for B, because B wasn't super heavy on the army department at all. He has a couple of knights, and just a handful of archers, but Mista could definitely surprise him with quite a few horsemen over here. I also love the way that Mista is placing his houses close to that wood line on the south. This way it's a little more difficult for B to just charge him with like 5, 6, 7 knights on those lumberjacks without getting noticed. And up north, it looks like Mista's going to spot that berry operation, but will lose that scout to the archers.
Yeah, so Archer's going to be revealed up here towards the north, but interestingly, Mista going to be coming out here now with a couple of spears of his own and looking to try and force these Royal Knights to get out of here. But keep in mind those scouts still scouting around on the map, B doing a pretty decent job. But he has also now begun researching wheelbarrow himself. That is going down at the original mill. So we can see that both players looking to pick up wheelbarrow very early in the game, and a second barrack is going to get dropped down here for Mista.
Mista is arriving up north over there with the horseman. This was spotted by B though, so he could pull away the archers for the time being. And that's why you always make a defensive tower if you move out like that. You want to make sure that your opponent won't be able to hit your berries like that. And indeed, this way B was able to avoid any casualties out there. Currently, it's 38 villagers for him, 35 for Mista, so slight deficit, but of course, Mista has that juggernaut English farming eco, so that's something that we'll have to start respecting. It's already 700 food per minute, and it's not like he's consuming berries or hunt, whereas his opponent is yet to transition to farms, so B is still very far away from having a very long and sustainable food eco.
Yeah, I think this is a really smart move by Mista. Playing defensive in the early game, just making sure that he doesn't lose any villages to raids, and at the same time building up his economy behind this. Typically, you look at the English civilization and like, you know, they don't really have that much going for them when it comes to their economy. They've got one town center. He hasn't dropped down a second town center. It's not like he trains villages faster than any other civilization, whereas the French obviously do that. But one thing that he is doing is he's investing in his economy. He's investing in those farms. And it's going to get to a point where B is going to need to do the same thing. This obviously is a game that could potentially run for 40, 50 minutes. These two civilizations notorious for being incredibly closely matched. So that is always an option. And Mista's already got his farms down, so he's looking pretty decent. But up towards the north, a bit of a shuffle unfolding up here, Lidakor.
Indeed, Mista was attacking from two directions. He was trying to pull the army of B to the right side with a couple of horsemen and then hit those berries on the north, but he wasn't really able to do that, and now he's in a bit of a troublesome spot because he sort of has to give up on those spears as he retreats. He needs to save the horsemen out here, and he doesn't have any reinforcements coming in. He's probably going to take the best fight he can here, turning around with the spears at some point, but he's going to lose most of his forces out there. On the right side, though, he's got spears and horsemen coming in, and since B has all of his archers on the left side, this could be a great window for Mista to push the berries on the right, which are already depleted by now.
Yeah, there's a lot of action going on the map right now, and a really nice use here by Mista of his horsemen. I'm not sure if you saw exactly what he was doing, but essentially he had his main force that was getting tagged slowly and steadily, and it looks like B doing a bit of a separation right now. No units at the moment to screen back here for the archers. Looks like the horsemen going to be able to get on top of it. Some serious damage going to be coming out now. Mista going to be picking up a lot of units here for free. The spearmen managing to make their way back towards these longbows and try and get some hits in on those knights before they manage to do it. But it looks like B going to be able to hold on despite getting caught with his pants down there for a little bit of a period. At the same time, back towards the town center, it looks like the majority of those forces have gone the way of the dodo.
At this point, both sides have taken quite a significant casualties, but as you said, because Mista's eco is so well set up, Mista's going to be completely fine with that. You see, B's got 400 food per minute coming in, and he basically has just one berry patch to work with, and he's moving out for that hunt in the middle area, which will be very much exposed for Mista's aggression. Instead, Mista is looking to do damage once again on those berry villagers up north. He already has that farming eco set up, and one thing that this farming eco gives him is a lot of safety, because he really doesn't need to protect any other place other than his starting base.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we can see now that those horsemen are going to continue moving in. B going to have to react on time. But keep in mind, he's only playing against the English. So worst case scenario, he just cops a couple of stabs in the face and he's going to be absolutely fine with that. But now it looks like the horsemen are going to be turning their attention towards the outpost, looking to siege it down. And you can see he's actually playing a little bit with fire right here, B, as he did evacuate that outpost ever so briefly and looked to try and get the villagers out. But Mista was very quick to pay attention. But you can see just how many units have been taken down there. A little bit of a mistake coming through from Mista as 4 knights now look to reinforce that outpost, and I don't think it was ever in any real danger there, Lidakor.
No, it wasn't. There is no range defense upgrade on those horsemen for Mista, and that's the difference between knights and the horsemen. 5 horsemen won't be able to take that tower down. 5 knights might have been able to, so there is definitely a bigger weakness of those horsemen without that range defense against that tower fire and making it very difficult to take it down. Now, Mista isn't messing around. He's now up to 3 barracks and he's got 2 stables as well. So he wants to go full feudal here. B is slowly piling up gold for Castle Age, but he's still very low on food. And you get the feel that there isn't really enough archers here for B to take a decisive fight against Mista's combined forces.
Oh no. Speaking of combined forces, Mista now beginning to push out into the middle of the map. He looks to have once again caught B with his pants down. Going to be able to run a screen in here. Looks like these knights going to be able to do a pretty decent job of preventing the charges coming through from the horsemen. You can see he's managing to do it. The slits come out. Unfortunately, those spears managing to connect very well, forcing back his opponent, and we see the overwhelming forces of the Mista manage to clean up the or the archers here of his opponent. I'm suspecting he's got upgrades. He's got the attack upgrades, no defensive upgrades at this point in time, and it's really starting to show. Those attack upgrades doing so much work.
And one of the knights even gets surrounded by horsemen, so it wasn't able to escape. There is chivalry to heal those knights back up, but most of them just died in that battle. And if you look at the military numbers, B is still at 20, Mista is at 28, but you get the feel that for Mista it's much easier to reinforce his army. On the other side of disaster strikes for Mista, I think that's the first time he's losing villagers in this game on that gold mine.
Yeah, I can't see any villager bodies on the ground. I'm not sure if you witnessed any deaths there, but I'm going to need to call the witnesses up because he's got 6 villagers in the town center at the moment and manages to take no actual hits from them, but now firing off towards those forces. We see once again a fight breaking out in the middle of the map. So many melee units in here. Just you can see everybody trying to get forward, poking together like they're at some sort of rock concert, trying to get to the front of the crowd so they can headbang a little bit harder, but it doesn't look like they're going to have a lot of luck because the headbanging is actually going to be coming out from the knights. You can see them unleashing on the spears on the ground, once again trying to do some damage, not having a whole lot of luck here, Lidakor. It looks like Mista actually going to be getting a pretty decent cleanup once again.
He's doing a great cleanup over here, killing a lot of expensive knights over here. And since the archers are gone, the spearmen are still working to great effect here. And you see more spearmen reinforcements coming in. B is going to be forced away from that hunt. And it's going to be more and more difficult for him to reinforce his knights. In fact, if you look at B's resources, he's out of gold. He's just now moving out for another gold mine. So this expensive army for B isn't really paying off. Whereas for Mista, he's got a juggernaut economy. That food eco and the wood combined, he's just flooding out these cheap non-gold costing units. And this way, he's also able to bank up quite a lot of gold, so he can start thinking about Castle Age potentially. B, although, moving out for the boar on the left side, that's something I really appreciate him doing. That's going to be a great source of food for him.
Yeah, this is a really interesting move by B. So we've kind of got 2 different styles that are coming down in this game right now. You've got the nomadic style of B, which is where he's migrating from, each side of the map, starts out with the berries up towards the north, moves down towards that boar. And then you've got the other style, which is the hunker down style, the Mista. He is now up to 33 farms. In fact, if I click on a villager, I'm going to be able to tell you how many farms he's got. He's got 28 farms right now that he has constructed. That's a huge investment when you think about it. 28 farms. For B to put those down, it's going to cost him, I'm just doing the math in my head right now, more than 2,000 wood. Whereas the Mista, obviously he gets discount farms. Not as expensive as his opponent, but by the same token, B is out on the map. He's a little bit more exposed. But speaking of exposed, take a look at those spears, trying their best to expose their spears over towards the jousts of their opponent.
And there is just no archers here for B, so that many spearmen will be able to do a ton of damage against those knights. Just a couple of archers now arrive, but when you only have 4 archers, this is a fight that Mista can very conveniently take. Tower is going to help out quite tremendously over here, but B is going to have to take this fight, otherwise he's going to lose that tower, and with that the boar. And you see that Mista is just focusing down the tower at this point, realizing that that's probably the biggest threat in this battle to his army.
Yeah, not only that, it's got a beautiful, delicious prize inside. 5 lucky villagers ready to share their daggers with you, I guess. Maybe that's probably the best bet. But Mista now going to be looking to age up. And I will just remind you guys, one of the best things about the English is that you can... Well, I'll talk about that in a little bit because we've got ourselves a bit of a fight up here. B might be able to push this issue if he's willing to. Mista's invested a lot of resources in getting up to the next stage. You can see attacks happening out on the map. It looks like just minor attacks with villagers, but now B really looking to push the issue on his opponent. Bit of a fight coming out. Mista gets the very nice slit there with the spears. Screen going to be running in. We can see the horsemen trying their best to get onto the archers. Doing a pretty decent job at tapping away at that armor. They do have their +1s in now, so they're going to be absolutely fine when it comes to the tank factor. But the overwhelming numbers of knights here really going to be trying to carry this position here. You can see that at the moment it looks like the battle is going to be going relatively evenly, and it actually looks like Mista manages to hold on. Impressive reinforcements continuing to fill in that battle, Lidakor. I'm not sure exactly how he did that.
Many of the horsemen are very low HP, so probably it was just a matter of, his opponent not focusing down the damage output over there. And of course, that extra range defense, as I said, it's actually very helpful for the spearman because it makes it more difficult for the archers to take them down. The key thing for Mista is that he got up the King's Palace. He had to take that fight, otherwise it would have been a risky call for him trying to get that up before the opponents arrive.
Yeah, so now he's managed to get up to the castle age. What do you think the unit composition is going to be for him? What's he going to look to try and take advantage of his age advantage? I've said advantage too many times here. What do you think he's going to do?
I think it's just going to be knights. I mean, he's already popping out the knights. You can start adding men-at-arms, and those would work well against the archers. But I think the start is going to be just knights, because your knights will be better than the French knights over here, and you're going to have that mobility component, and that's the big thing here. As you said, B is living that nomadic lifestyle with his eco, so you want mobility. Men-at-arms won't be able to do a lot of damage fast, and what you really want from your castle age is to do a lot of damage in just the next 1 or 2 minutes, and you can accomplish that with knights very effectively.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You just want to sort of hit hard, hit fast. And now we see a monastery being added here from Mista. So one of the things I want to talk about is this concept of pseudo booming. So you know the concept of a very normal raw boom would just be to add in a second town center. You know, that's a very obvious focus on the economy. But Mista here, he was doing a bit of a pseudo boom back here with his farms. So typically as a civilization, it's very rare to go onto farms this early. But as the English, it is a different story. And by adding in these farms, he's building up his economy. He's making his villages more valuable by doing this. As you mentioned, it makes them less exposed to the elements that are out on the map. Obviously, there's deer out there. There's berries that are a little bit further out. He doesn't need to go for those. He can keep them nice and safe in the base. But in addition to that, he also keeps them on mills that are very close to their primary resources, and he's able to get these upgrades for them. So we see he's already got horticulture coming through, or has already come through rather, and wheelbarrow has already been researched as well. So these resources are going to make it incredibly efficient for him to be farming. Yeah, so when you see the French going up against the English, and often you think that the French have got this economic advantage, yes, they do, but so do the English, and don't forget about it.
And it's a big investment at the beginning, but the longer the game goes, the more it pays off. So that's why you play defensive at the beginning. You just want to make sure that this game is as long as possible with that farming eco, because you know that at some point B is going to start running out of berries, running out of hunt, and you already have your food eco set up. And now it is just a juggernaut food eco, 1300 food per minute, and we're seeing a flood of spearmen and knights non-stop. You could already see B being forced away from the boar, from the hunt on the right side, and Mista already added a monastery. I think he's moving out for a sacred site. He wants to just capitalize on the map control he currently has and finish this game.
Yeah, he's under a lot of threat right now, B is, and interestingly going for the Royal Institute as well. We can see raids going all over this map right now. Mista is on absolute fire. Raids on the farms on the right side of the base. Raids on the wood line towards the top side. Raid on the gold mine down towards the south side. At the front, he defends the raid from his opponent under attack over on the west side of his base. He is fighting on so many different fronts right now. Mista is on absolute fire.
He is on fire, and he's realizing that at this point, he just needs to keep up the pressure, because his opponent won't be able to access resources if he just keeps up the pressure. Like, B at this point has lost access to that boar, he's lost access to that hunt, and you see he's dropping in villagers really badly as well. So Mista is building up a villager lead based on this as well. As you said, Royal Institute is a big factor though, because he's just now finishing Royal Bloodlines, which is the only thing that could potentially save B over here, even though against that many spearmen, that's still a bit of a long shot.
Yeah, the big issue that B is going to have right now is that he really failed to control the narrative. He needed to keep his Royal Knights alive. He needed to get that veteran status, needed to get that +2 damage coming in, the decarbonization, and then finally finishing it off with that Royal Bloodlines technology. Unfortunately, he lost almost all of his units, and it means that even though he's got that technology, he's not going to be able to utilize the power spike that comes along with it. And as a result, it means that he is not looking in a good position. Now, once again, Lidakor, we see Mista heading into the base of B. B having to retreat back towards that town center, trying his best to clean up this attack, but not having a lot of luck.
Not at all. Look at that. Lumberjacks getting slain, gold miners getting slain. You mentioned this in a previous set, that when you have 5 attack notifications going off at the same time, you just start not paying attention to it. Just look at the base of B. Everywhere he
Yeah.
looks, attack notifications. He probably isn't even noticing his lumberjacks are getting killed because he's too busy trying to run for his life with the villagers on the right. His villager count is dropping faster than it is imaginable, and Mista takes game number 1 in a very convincing castle age play.
Very, very methodical play right there from Mista. Not a lot of mistakes coming out from him. Absolutely well played.
Yeah, really well played. And as you said, it's about how compact that eco and that passive boom that we've seen from him. That he's still adding army, but behind that, he's just systematically and methodically building up that eco, and he's just unleashing the power of that economy as he gets to Castle Age.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. So, yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, typically people will forget about that aspect of the English in that you are dropping down farms, you're investing in your economy. Think of every one of those farms as kind of like a little villager that you're investing in. It makes a lot of sense. And so when he's throwing down 40 farms in the back of his base, that's serious business, baby.
Exactly. Like with 20% getter rate, that basically means for every 5 farmers, you're getting a 6th one. So there is nothing to be ashamed of over there, and that's a great way to keep track and, just not fall behind by much against the French economy. And you also have to consider the other factor. The French army is disgustingly expensive. The knights, the archers are not super expensive, but when you also have to pump out villagers at an increased rate, and you also have to pump out those very expensive knights consistently, then you see that if the English can start banking up resources, they will almost be guaranteed to beat the French to Castle Age, and then you can use that power spike, simply because the French will be losing very expensive units in these battles.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, fellas. Well, if you're watching this one on YouTube, I hope you guys have enjoyed this casted game. Make sure you check out the next video because I guarantee you it's going to be a great game because game number 2 is coming right up, and I'm looking forward to seeing how B is going to be able to stop Mista.
For a moment, I thought that you're just going to say, okay, it's a great game coming up, so we're not going to Boulder Bay. I don't know the next map, but I'm certainly hoping that we're not going to Boulder Bay because, well, you know what that would mean.
Unironically, if it's Boulder Bay, I am just going to step away from the PC for 5 minutes. I'll come back, and we'll move on to the third game.
Okay, it looks like we don't have a game yet, and Mista is only online, so they're not even in the lobby. We will have a quite lengthy downtime in between the games. But honestly, if it is Boulder Bay, and it could very well be Boulder Bay, although that is Mista's home map, if it is Boulder Bay, I think the only person that I would actually be interested in seeing on Boulder Bay is Mista, because he himself is a big innovator. Like, he loves to bring in these new strategies, these new approaches, and I think if there is anyone that could potentially make a Boulder Bay game entertaining, that could be Mista.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's him or Viper, but I'll accept that. I go back to that game that Mista played Abbasid on Boulder Bay and unleashed the Springalds upon the world. You remember that game?
Yes, I did. Yes, I do. That was a special game, I must say.
Yeah, that was a really good game. Yeah, that was beautiful. Men at Arms plus Springalds. Everyone's like, what the hell is he doing picking Abbasid on this map? He's going to lose. He's an idiot. Boom. Destroyed them.
Okay, let's take a look at the maps. Well, we don't have a civilization pick here either, so they're quite a bit behind, I must say, when it comes to setting up stuff. B has the options to select between Danube, Lipany, and Mongolian Heights, 2 hybrid maps, and 1 open Arabia style map. Knowing B and knowing that he just lost a rather open map, so Lipany might actually be a bit of a surprising choice from him, which do you think is going to be his home map selection?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I'm just thinking about his playstyle and the way that it works. I feel like early in the game, you don't want to or early in the series, you don't really want to reveal all your cards, do you? You just kind of want to keep your sort of guaranteed wins a little bit closer to the end. It's kind of like, have you ever played the game Uno?
Nope. I'm one of those people that never played Uno.
How do I disconnect from Discord? Give me a second. I'm just kidding. All right, in Uno, okay, there's this card called the +4, and the +4 allows you to play a card on any color. That's really what its strength is. So imagine this card that it can be played at any point in time, and it's a guaranteed victory or guaranteed card. A lot of people make the mistake of using their +4s early in Uno, but that is a mistake. Ideally, you want to be saving it to your last card. I expect we'll probably see the same thing coming out here from these guys. They want to save their strengths or their strength in picks until a little bit later on.
And you're right about that. Now, the only game that B dropped in this entire qualifiers weekend was against Doubt in the round of 24s. He lost Arabia and then he decided to pick Lipany, so it's possible we're gonna have that. But I will make you very happy right now because we do have a civilization matchup that you 100% did not expect. I'm not sure about the map yet because we will only get to see that once we jump into the game. But the civilization setup will make you very happy, I must say. It is Abbasids for Mista and B pulling the trigger on the Chinese.
No way. No way.
It's true. I'm not joking.
What's Mista going for?
Abbasids.
Abbasid versus Chinese.
When was the last time you saw this matchup?
The year was 2006. Black Forest had just had its sacred sites reinstated for the 16th time. It was a long and difficult game.
I can see that. 2006 games. Although the meta was very different because that was 15 years ago. So, Age of Empires 4 was still played with just green and red cubes in that version of the game.
I get that reference. I remember that part from Age of Empires 2. The cubes. I remember when I was playing Age of Empires 2 and I was like, hey, can I have some recommendations for some mods? And people were like, oh, get the cube mod. I'm like, okay. And I looked into it and I'm like, the fuck is this? Are you guys serious right now?
Yeah, honestly, that's the part that I'm waiting for the most in the spring patch. I think in the spring patch, they promised us to have user-generated content. So I'm hoping for mods because it's time to mod this game to just absolute oblivion. You can start adding, imagine just being able to add sound mods. So you can just convert your Vololo to whatever you want, or
Vololo.
or just convert everything to cubes, yeah. Just like the Finns do in Age of Empires 2. That would be fun.
Do you remember when there was these maps that had a lot of water on them, and you would spawn on your own island and your enemy would spawn on a different island. And sometimes if you're playing team games, you spawn on a different island from your teammate. So everybody had their own island.
That was intentional, actually. You could have that set up like that. It was called Enemy Archipelago, and the concept was that you're always on the same island with one of the enemies, not your teammate.
That's actually a pretty sick idea. It'd be pretty bad, though.
I feel like the moment custom maps became a reality in Age of Empires 4, not a single one of these standard maps will ever be played in tournaments again.
Except for Arabia. It'll probably be New Arabia or something like that. Because this is dry
Vet Arabia. Because this is dry Arabia, and it's just going to be what do I name my Arabia version? Let's call it the Vet Arabia.
Yeah. Man, yeah. What are you hyped for? Because obviously, I'm hyped for the game that's coming up. I'm going to right-click that. I'm going to observe that game. And we'll check exactly what we've got. So we've got, Abbasid, Chinese, and the map is going to be... Let's have a look and see what we've got here. My program is doing its parsing. It's thinking. It's still saying dry Arabia. Come on, get it together, mate. It's still saying dry Arabia. That's weird.
That's weird. Well, I'm technically on the countdown screen right now. Would be very surprised if this was dry Arabia.
Yeah, still saying dry Arabia. Weird. Maybe they forgot to change it. Maybe. Let's just go for the more likely reaction or more likely option, which is that my program is not correct. But I mean, a couple of things that I'm looking forward to in the update. So custom maps, that's going to be fucking huge. That's a massive one. What else are we looking for? Obviously, we got ranked seasons coming up. I guess just user-generated content in general.
Yeah, they're just saying
So
UGC, but that refers to two
UI
things.
changes.
Yeah, that's basically modding.
Yeah.
Now, that's actually a little surprising that they didn't have that already involved. It's probably an engine thing, but from AoE 2, like in
It's
AoE 2,
Lippany.
even if it wasn't available, you could just change certain game files because they are publicly accessible. In AoE
Yep.
4, most of those game files are compiled into encrypted archives. So you can't just change certain files. Like, we're not talking about actually changing the attack speed of my archers, although technically that could potentially bring those dangers as well. But being able to change certain UI elements just to fit certain streamers' overlays would already be a fun thing to play around with.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. The map that we've got, by the way, is Lippany. So that is where they're going. So interestingly, it's an open map, and the civilization choices interesting for an open map like this. But yeah, we are. Yeah, we're heading into a pretty good time. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we've seen a continual decline in the user base of AoE 4. It started off strong. It continued working its way down. I'm hoping that it's going to take a turn for the better once we start getting custom maps in, ranked seasons obviously coming in. The user-generated content is going to be the big one for me. So custom maps is just like so important to have that. It's really healthy. But then, I mean, modding is just going to be a really important thing. But then obviously we're going to have new civilizations as well that come in. But yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that you can't really mod AoE 4 at the moment just because they're all locked. All the files are locked. And yeah, you can't really get in there and do stuff.
Well, in theory you can, but that's not as easy as you would normally want it to be. So it's way more complex than just, I'm just going to change the background file and make it look something different. Like in AoE 2, it's literally just like that. You open the game folder, you change two files, and you have a different background for your main menu and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember playing AoE 2 and it was like, I didn't like where this UI element was. And then I would just like change two numbers and bam, there it was. Beautiful.
Yep. So, as you said, this is gonna be very big. Especially the modding part will give a lot of quality of life features for both of us as casters, but also for the players, having the ability to potentially adjust their own UI, because the in-game UI for players is not terrible, but some players might have different preferences. And of course, custom maps. That's going to be great for tournaments. You could start making very special maps, tournaments based around very special maps, or just in general polish some of the already existing ones so they're a little more fair, balanced, and consistent.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Age of Empires 4 StarCraft 2 maps. So, like maps that have got like a nice little ramp at the start. You can wall it in. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, it's called
We got
Glendale.
18 seconds. That's actually a good point. Let's not do that. Oh, I don't want to quit.
All right, instead, it's time to go. Game number 2.
All right. So, yeah, we got 2 seconds to go. China versus Abbasid. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. Let's take a look and see what we've got. G'day, fellas, and welcome to a casted game. Spawning in on the right side of the map, we've got the Mista playing in the color blue on the Abbasid dynasty. On the opposite side of the map, who have we got, Lidakor?
We got the B coming in as the Chinese here. Haven't really seen Chinese being utilized very frequently in this tournament so far, and I can tell you, it probably fills our hearts with joy that we are seeing Chinese being played not just once today, but already for the second time.
Yeah, both you and I are China mains, China players at heart. We often remember that our first love. For me, it was a particular flavor of paddle pop, which is an ice cream that we've got in Australia. But after that, it was the Chinese civilization. Obviously, I've moved on. I'm now a Delhi fanboy, but, I've still got love in my heart for the Chinese. So it's great to see them picked up here by B and on Lippany of all maps as well, which is a very open map. So a bit curious here.
Yeah, there is a lot of things to discuss because he just lost an open map and he decided to double down on it. This is the exact same thing that he did against Doubt. So we'll have to see if that works out over here. I'm curious to see what he has on his mind with the Chinese, because we discussed this in the first game. He's one of the more out-of-the-box thinkers, one of the more surprising players. So Mista will need to have very, very thorough scouting around the opponent's base if he wants to make sure that he doesn't get surprised by B's potentially unconventional gameplay.
And China's always one of those civilizations that you can be taken by surprise with, or taken surprise of. Or China has a lot of surprises that it can throw your way, just because you've always got so many options with China. Do you throw down a second town center? Do you go for that Song dynasty? Do you look to go for a couple of stables hidden behind a tree line somewhere? There's a lot of different things that you can do with it. And speaking of doing different things, 3DB going to be capturing a couple of sheep over towards his opponent's base. We see he's managed to pick up 3 behind here already. Probably going to run into a 4th one up there as well. Compare that over to Mista, who has gone for the 1 scout opening and has missed them completely.
Mista usually goes for 1 scout opening, so it was a little surprising that we have seen double scouts on Arabia. And on the right side, it's worth mentioning that his 2 patches of hunt are very close to each other. In fact, so close that certain deer spawn in each other's bodies, and this means that they can't separate. I think yesterday we had a game where a sheep spawned in the body of a boar, and the same thing was there. They couldn't separate, so they will forever move together.
Yeah, I just... Look, we're doing this for YouTube as well. It's important that... you know, you just keep in mind there's a content guideline. Adult content probably should be kept off the site.
You are the one drawing things on Border Bay and just dropping the F-bombs every 2 minutes, man.
I'm Australian. I'm legally permitted. I'm culturally permitted to say those words whenever I permit. But you know what is not permitted? These 2 deers, they are doing the hanky-panky on my screen right now. I don't know if you see this, but they're moving in ways I've only seen in BBC documentaries. And I'm not talking about the ones they show on English television.
One thing I'm a little surprised about is that...
I can't believe I just said that. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I can't believe I just said that. I'm really sorry. Okay, let's continue. I'm gonna hope that half of my chat didn't get that joke.
All right, it's time to go back before we get demonetized forever from YouTube.
Oh gosh, it's all right. YouTube doesn't individually inspect the file. It doesn't legally or doesn't individually inspect the videos. It's more of a broad brush they apply.
Yeah. At least so are we hoping. Anyways, Mista is sending villagers out to the stone. That stone mine is a tiny bit exposed, so you probably want to gather that stone before you get your stone mine exposed by the opponents here, especially because Chinese can field a lot of army at the beginning, and holy sheeps, is that a lot of herdables trailing B. He has managed to bring back 11 sheep, and he has 1 more right next to that mill, and 2 more carcasses. We've talked about this in the previous set, that this map spawns with like 16, 17 sheep, and B has the majority of it. His opponent barely has anything to work with, and given how exposed those berries are, this could be concerning, especially because that's the Barbican of the Sun Rush. That has to be it.
It is 100%. He is rushing right now. Look at this. Look how many villages he's pulling for this. B is actually going insane right now. This is either the biggest misclick that a man has ever done, or he's doing some sort of Barbican rush right now. We are seeing it happen live.
Oh boy, that's 9 villagers, and with the Chinese you build your landmarks faster, so 9 villagers will build a Barbican in just a matter of seconds. The question is, what do you tower rush here? Are you tower rushing the berries, the wood line, or what? Because you can only place it at a certain position, and that's gonna be right next to the archer range. Is there a single archer popping out? The answer is no, and that Barbican will be rushed up in a matter of seconds. Mista's gonna be like, what am I even witnessing?
He is rushing everything right now. He doesn't care whether it's the berries. He doesn't care whether it's the wood line, the archery range. He just rushes everything. He is just all eyes right now on everything. I mean, he's probably got only 2 eyes, but he's looking at everything. B is rushing like a madman. And look at this, dropping down a lumber camp immediately next to this as well. Barbican is out. Barbican is in business. And we've got ourselves a game on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, because shit is about to get real.
It is about to get real indeed, and you have to relocate your wood line. Mista does have the stone he needs for a second town center though, so before this game started, Mista was probably thinking about, okay, I'm just going to use my second town center to boom. Now it's more like, okay, I'm just going to relocate my entire base as far away from that Barbican of the Sun as humanly possible.
Oh my lord, this is disgusting. So not only does the Chinese build defensive structures faster than all other civilizations, but B's decided he's going to start building it with 6 villages on this wood line. That wood line is completely gone. We have got one of the most disgusting tower rushes I have ever seen. Second outpost now going to be coming in as well. Look at the villagers bringing out their daggers. There's no torches involved here. It is just a matter of personal affairs. It looks like we've got ourselves a little bit of downtown Abbey as the daggers come down to stab the backs of the Chinese people in front of them, taking out the first villager. It goes down. Second one going to go down as well, but unfortunately, it looks like that outpost is going to get up, and now those villagers are going to be under significant threat as the hand cannon slits is actually coming through, and this is dangerous.
And on the right side, you also had a tower attempted by B, but with archer numbers increasing for Mista, I think he will be able to repel that. But as you said, this is the most disgusting tower rush you have seen in Age of Empires 4. For any civilization in AoE 4, you always need to have some sort of army that protects those villagers. It's not just villagers being pulled to make towers, but Chinese builds it so fast that you can just pull your villagers and make it happen. And because he's mining stone, he can also make the air hand cannon slits a reality. This is just such a disgusting move from B, but it's also such a spectacular move because really quite unexpected and quite effective so far.
Yeah, doing really, really well so far. Managing to get up a third outpost in the base. Now going to be moving up towards the fourth base. And we've got ourselves a counter wall coming up from the Mista. So smart. Now, a lot of people would be looking at this and saying, what the hell are you going to do with a stone wall? This is a very special stone wall. It has got a triple segment in here and now places the stone tower, which is going to be giving him that defensive bonus in this direction. So he knows he can't match the power, the firepower coming out from B here. So as a result, he's going to add this one in. Hopefully that's going to stop his walls in his tracks, and you can see the outpost on the back line. It manages to get up. I think that's pretty close to being a doubt outpost. Have a look at that. It looks like to me, I'm going to do some math here, 98% getting up. Unfortunately, you need 100.
Yep, indeed. You can safely call that a doubt post, and you see that Mista is going to pull the villagers to make sure that that outpost never goes up. And in the long run, these stone wall establishments will be much sturdier for Mista, and those have the old springald emplacements on them, so they'll be very effective, even shooting at those towers out there. So I think Mista's defense is holding here, and oftentimes, as we have seen in Age of Empires 2, where tower rushing is way more common than Age of Empires 4, the best way to react to this is just send 2 or 3 archers to the opponent's base. B's entire eco is wide open. 2 archers might finish the game here.
Yeah, this could be massive if he looks for it. Also, we see the battering ram coming down as well. B having a lot of, or Mista rather, having a lot of trouble in getting any more units out. Just completely camped in by these outposts. And keep in mind, these guys have got the hand cannon slits. So these aren't just your normal slits that are doing just hand damage per arrow. These bad boys hit for 25. Do not mess with these guys.
And B is coming in with another tower rush on that wood line on the right side. Preemptive tower is up for Mista though, so he might be able to stop this one. Indeed, B is gonna have to call off this push. And as you said, there is a battering ram coming in. Luckily for Mista, he's Abbasid, so he doesn't need the technology for this one. But he's losing his villagers on the stone mine. He didn't notice those towers shooting at it, because his entire map is just one red flashing mass.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And have a look right now. We can see Mista sitting on 27 villages, 3 military, 26 villages for B at this point in time. So managing to keep the villager counts relatively even. Horsemen now going to be coming out and looking to try and even things up over in the middle of the map. I don't think B is going to be able to get this outpost up. He looks to get it, and he manages to secure it up with 1 villager remaining. 1 villager does go down, and now we've got those hand cannon slits coming in again. Second horseman going to be thrown into the mix, and we do see the second landmark getting thrown down here for B. He is entering into a dynasty, my friend. We're going into the song.
Oh, look at that. B tried to drop a tower on that hilltop and wall it off from the scouts, but that wasn't really a possibility, and he's not going to be able to get that up. And with the Rams, you're going to start taking down those towers. As you said, Dynasty is on the horizon for B, but B is also getting cleaned up. Is he going to get those walls up, though?
Yeah,
this is
he's
his
going to
window.
get him up. Yeah, look, he just managed to get these guys through the stealth forest. I'm not sure if you saw this. He managed to sneak a couple of these guys through. Oh, this could be terrible for him. If he goes for the wall again here, he could wall himself in with this horseman. It's on a very low hit points. He needs to get back towards... He takes out the horseman. He heads to the front line. 1 villager splits off towards the outpost. The second villager splits off towards the wall. He manages to get up all the components of the wall that he needs. He completely blocks out his opponent. 3DB makes some big brain moves, and he is an absolute mogul in this game.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that is such a cheesy play over here. And Mista cannot believe this. I mean, Mista is doing the right things to respond to this, but just these small things going in the favor of B make it very difficult. That tower is just at a spectacular position. So once again, Mista is going to have to call off his lumberjacks away from there. Although he's slowly reclaiming his side of the base and he's about to take down those towers. So I feel like Mista is slowly stabilizing, and I'm not sure how much juice is left in B's assault here, although he's now popping out some horsemen, so he will appear on the battlefield with a couple of combat units.
Yeah, well, I think the important thing to note is that he is actually not gone all in here. Definitely, it looked like a big strategy with bold moves, but at the same time, he kept making villages behind this, and not only that, but he's gone for a dynasty, which means, as I like to iterate every time I have the opportunity, he's making his villages extra fast today.
Oh, he's chopping through. Look at the southern part. Mista preemptively pulled that section, and now he's chopping through. I don't know what this is, but oh my goodness, the amount of cheese that we have over here. I mean, any Frenchman would just envy us here with the amount of cheese that we are encountering.
It is absolutely disgusting. I don't know about you, but it smells like gorgonzola. It is very potent, very strong, and there are significant amounts of it. So it's going to be incredibly tough. We see that town center was looking to come down here. The outpost did get spotted out by Mista, and now he has to retreat away from this front. You can see that he's cancelled the first town center. Second town center going to get put up here instead. But a fair bit of a mass now beginning to build with regard to these horsemen as players begin to transition towards these cavalry units. Mista going to be trying his best to keep up with the appearances that his enemy is putting down. But look at all those attack arrows or all those attack circles on the map. Just so many of them around.
And now that horsemen are there for B, that ram isn't going to be able to take down those towers. And you know you're in trouble when the opposite player places the second town center at minute 13. And Mista just struggling for resources while he's depleting his berries. The Barbican of the Sun still stands strong. It is being taken down, but the villagers could be pulled to burn down that ram. And as you said, B is slowly building up the dynasty, and he's building up enough stone stockpiles to potentially think about a second town center even, or just go castle, because his resources aren't looking that bad for that either.
Look at the way he continues to push in here with these outposts, just locking down area, locking down regions of the map and preventing his opponent from taking the resources in there. We saw that at the beginning of the game. The Barbican came down. It denied not only the wood line, but also the berries. Then he continued expanding out towards the east. We saw him drop down a second outpost, denying the wood line. Two more outposts got dropped down towards the gold mine. A third one was denied by the Stonewall Tower, but now we continue to see that growing as, once again, we've got these stone, we've got the arrows or the slits coming through, but in addition to that, we've also got the fortifications for these outposts as well. So he is really looking to hold on to this area and prevent his opponent from coming through.
And he snipes the battering ram, making it much more difficult for those horsemen to take down the tower. Remember the previous game, Mista tried to take down a tower with the horsemen, didn't really work out, and now these towers, as you said, have the hand cannon slits, and you also got the fortification in it. It's all about the delay right now for B. He wants to get that fortification. Look at how majestic that tower looks like. How are you even gonna take it down? This bad boy has like 3000 HP.
Yeah, this is a tanky boy right here. You don't want to mess with this, but now it looks like the villagers are going to be trying their best to take it out. At the same time, a couple villagers inside this outpost are going to be preventing a significant amount of damage from coming onto this, I suspect. Oh my lord, look at the pool that we've got right now. We've got 35 villagers taking this down. Actually, 30 villagers going to be taking this down. He means serious business when you are talking about tower rushes right here. That is a lot of villagers that are very angry with the Chinese outpost in their base.
But look at how much time it takes to take it down, and B is gonna be like, okay, whatever, you can have it. I'm just gonna build another one behind and fortify it. Archer range now coming out because he's seeing an increased amount of spearmen come in, and Mista is just struggling. I think Mista needs that food patch now with the hunt. And B, he's getting closer and closer to Castle Age. Villager count still dead even in this one, and Mista just cannot catch a breath.
This is one of the cheesiest games I've ever seen, and I'm going to be honest. I love it. Give it to me all day. This, I could literally cast this for 24 hours and I would be very, very happy. Second outpost with fortifications now coming up behind the wood line as well. Going to be able to use this as a great anchor point, and we continue to see him pushing forward here. It looks like majority of the villagers on the front line may have been taken down. Actually, there's a single one that remains, and you see him coming away now, speeding up to that outpost and sitting down on the ground, tapping away at it. He's going to be researching all of the things that he needs to, and now continuing to push in towards the villager line of his opponent. Mista definitely getting pressed up against the wall at this point. 46 villagers for Mista, 46 villagers for B. These guys are dead even when it comes to their villager counts.
But one thing that's very important for B is that his opponent has his entire eco under pressure, whereas his own eco is just not getting pushed at all. You see, B is just able to move out for a hunt, supervise that, and he's just able to apply so much pressure to Mista's eco that Mista is struggling for resources more and more. He's having trouble with the food income. Whereas for B, I feel like any moment in this game he could decide to go up to castle, but knowing him, he's a big believer in full feudal aggression, so he might stay in feudal for a long time and just continue to press on.
Yeah, can you imagine the difficulty that Mista would have right now if B did manage to make it up to castle and manage to get out a couple of lances? It would be absolutely disgusting, and I don't know if there'd be any way that Mista would be able to hold it, but we'll have to see how he manages to pull this out. A couple of horsemen heading in towards the wood line here. It looks like Mista's just going to be turning around, and this is really what it comes down to. Like, horsemen are just so laughably weak at this point. Villagers have no problem killing them. Mista is going to be returning back towards his town center. He's going to find it a little bit easier as one villager does go down, but now in a bit of a difficult spot as Golden Age, was that Golden Age 1 just getting activated right now? I think it was.
Yeah, because the base of Mista is so spread out that he couldn't connect those buildings. He just now activated Golden Age Tier 1, and if you look at B, now he's thinking about going up, but there's the counterattack. Horsemen coming in here from Mista, but as you said, horsemen are just so laughably weak that villagers with the extra HP will just fight them off here without any problems.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, it just becomes, like, it's a joke, honestly. Horsemen are just a joke at how little they do. I've talked about this before, but essentially, the chads of the horses are the knights, and these guys are the betas. They are not particularly strong when it comes to fighting, but they do relatively well against other horsemen. So that is, I mean, that's an important point.
Meanwhile, talking about those horsemen, we are going to have B moving in as well, and Mista didn't notice this. With so many towers inside his eco, it is just very difficult to spot that new attack notification that comes up, and as you said, the horsemen are so bad, but the Zhugenu are doing a lot of work here.
This is one of the things I've advocated for a long time, and we still don't have it, and it kind of annoys me. There needs to be an option to have an independent spectator. I shouldn't be getting ally under attack, forces under attack all the time. I want to be able to spectate this game. I want to be able to spectate it in peace. And when I've got notifications like this coming up constantly on my minimap, constantly, you know, everywhere on my screen, it ruins the experience for me, because I want to be able to enjoy this cheese, and I want to be able to whine about it. But unfortunately, I'm just having to whine about the spectator experience.
You want to whine about the cheese?
Yes, that's exactly right, Lidakor.
Speaking of Song Dynasty, by the way, one thing that we have sort of overlooked so far is that B is now on 2 town centers, so he's at 65 villas over 43, and he's got the villages to jump into when there is a counterattack coming in. B is in Song Dynasty, but guess what? Mista could click that button and get up to Castle Age.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you brought up that point. So we do indeed see Mista now clicking up to the next stage. We'll check in on his landmark, and you can see that he's going with the Culture Wing. So B going to be throwing away his Barbican of the Sun. Mista going to be looking to get up to the next age, but I definitely think that B is in the driver's seat for this game, despite all the attack notifications going off. Yeah, right now, the double TC is the big play for me. This is incredibly strong. And it means that he's managed to keep Mista on the back foot for a sufficient amount of time, and now he's going to race off without him. So basically, think of him...
I think
really?
B is in trouble, because B is still in Feudal Age. I think he delayed his Castle Age too much. And while there is definitely a lot of towers, Mista is slowly regaining land over here, and suddenly Mista's going to have access to those berries that he started with, and if he appears here with Lancers, he could cut into that villager deficit really fast.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The Lancers is definitely, or the Lancers are definitely where things could get serious. The one thing I hope that B manages to do, as he does click up to the third age, going up with the astronomical
now
clock
he's
tower,
good.
no surprises there. But it would at least look to potentially wall himself in a little bit. He's obviously controlling his enemy a lot towards his side of the base, but needs to look to control his enemy a little bit more towards his own side.
It was a nice reaction from B to go up to Castle Age. He probably spotted that Mista hasn't really been sending in new forces, so it's likely that Mista is aging to Castle as well. He might have even spotted that little wing being built on that House of Wisdom using the Barbican of the Sun, but now that he's up to Castle Age, he's indeed all fine, because he's got the eco lead and he no longer has the technology deficit. In fact, he's able to supervise the stable for Lancer production, so he's now in a commanding position.
Mista now reaching the Castle Age. B looking very, very strong at this point, but Mista going to be trying to even it up. We'll check in with his production and see what he looks to go into, and it's going to be crossbows that he elects to go into, and I think that's a very smart choice to blindly open up with. It's almost guaranteed that your enemy is going to be going into some sort of armored unit immediately upon reaching the Castle Age, so blindly going into crossbows, it makes a lot of sense.
Indeed. And one of the things that happened yesterday is that we had a match with Kaposh versus Lucifron where something similar happened. It wasn't really the cheesy game that we have had here, but Kaposh beat Lucifron into Castle Age by quite a bit, started massing men-at-arms, and then Lucifron, reaching Castle Age, just went blindly to crossbows and ultimately won the game because there was just no deviation from those armored units. Oftentimes, you're just so stuck with your armored units when you're playing any civilization and getting to Castle Age that the crossbows could be a great response.
Take a look what we've got happening right now. So B is actually leaving a single unit on each of the relics. Actually, I take it back. He's now moved them away from the relics. Never mind me.
Oh no, Mista. He's sending out 10 villagers to the north, attempting a third TC, but there is knights to intercept him, the worst possible time to send those villagers out. He's lucky that B doesn't know about his plans building that TC, so he's only going to lose a couple of villagers over here.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate timing. Couple crossbows going to be coming out. I got to say, I love the Abbasid crossbows. Look how amazing they look. I wish we could zoom in a little bit further on them, but they're wearing these awesome-looking robes. Knights going to be coming in, or Lancers going to be coming in, trying their best to hit away at the crossbows of their opponents, but not going to have a lot of luck here. Crossbows, unfortunately, don't do particularly well in melee combat, it seems.
Not at all. You need something in front, because those knights do a ton of damage after a successful charge. That Guandao does 25 damage per hit, and a horseman won't be able to do much either other than just absorb that first charge from the Lancers. B is still going to play this one safely, but being able to supervise that stable, he's popping out those knights at a quite rapid pace, and he's only using one stable for that. So, despite the fact that there is quite a lot of crossbows for Mista to work with, he isn't really able to build up his army because B is just pressing him non-stop. And look at that on the right side. He's going to wall in his opponent. He just wants to limit Mista's movement ability as much as possible.
Yeah, very smart move. I think he really needs to try and control where his opponent's going to be able to go. So I would look to be walling potentially over on this western flank as well. Look to try and get some walls up over here. And then potentially towards the middle of the map as well. It's going to be really important to stop your enemy from moving in. But it is quite an open area, unfortunately, between this sacred site and where the existing gate is over there for 3D.
And it looks like B is heading north. He might actually intercept those villagers. And you could ask, how is it possible that he knows about it? It's really simple. You just always probe those berries because the Abbasids want to expand towards the berries. If B just probes that, he's going to be able to find those villagers before the TC goes up.
Oh no, it's happening. It is happening, and he spots it. He's now going to be coming in the town center. 2100, 2200's about to click over. The villagers slowly but steadily getting massacred. This could be a good game right here, and you might not think that it is a big victory, but it is a moral victory, a morale victory right here. This is where the Mista begins to fall apart. And he's held on so long throughout this game. He's held on for 20 minutes with towers in his base, villagers being killed, but now he's gone. He's lost a whole bunch of villagers that were building his town center. This was his third town center. This was his pride and joy. And now it gets really tough for him. He manages to push away the knights. They don't end up killing the town center, and more villagers are going to come out, going to rebuild it. But it is a significant loss for him.
And a significant delay because he needed to cut into that villager deficit. Now B is at 111 villagers, and if you look at those resources, that could be Imperial Age soon, or that could be Yuan Dynasty. maybe even Fire Lancers from B. That would be a little surprising against the Spearman numbers that are increasing for Mista, but you never know. Just burn through the right side over there, and especially against Abbasids, where you only have to snipe down 2 buildings, the House of Wisdom and the TC. Nope,
I was looking at Mista and I'm like, hold on a minute, something's going on here, because he's playing the Chinese. You don't need this much wood, all right? If you want to go out to a gold mine, like, he knows where the gold mines are. He can very easily send his villagers out there. He's chopping this wood with intent. This isn't poor macro. He's got all the farms that he needs. You can see he's got beautiful farms. If I click on that villager, it's going to tell me he's got 45 farms. So he is saving up that wood for something, and he drops down a whole huge amount right now of archery ranges. 5 to be exact.
Yeah, he's going for Jugenu, which is an intriguing option. You don't really see players committing this much to the Jugenu, but it could be a great complement to this army. The Lancers are powerful, and what are you up against? You're up against Spearmen, and you're up against Crossbowmen, so the Jugenu will just counter both of those, and he's going to have an insane production of that. As you said, this is why he's so heavy on the wood. In fact, he's floating so much resources that he could just flood those out non-stop. Look at that queue being set up. He is at 17 army right now. He's going to be at 60 in just a minute.
Yeah, this is going up very, very quickly. And this could get out of hand for Mista right now, because if we take a look at the scores, B with a huge lead, 2.4k right now for B. Now, typically, I would encourage you not to pay too much attention to the score, but you can pay attention to it right now, because that is starting to look very concerning for Mista. A little bit of a stock take at the moment shows Mista sitting on 83 villages, B on 128. So earlier, Lidakor, I mentioned, I thought B was in the driver's seat when I saw that second TC. And indeed, it seems that is the way. He's doing very well to keep Mista on his side of the map, and I suspect that he's going to come out victorious in this game. These Chokunu just going to be the final nail in the coffin.
And as you said, like, the only hope that Mista had was that he beats his opponent to castle, and he's just going to overrun him with castle units, but that wasn't there because B rushed up his castle. And one thing to consider is that Mista also hasn't been gathering relics, whereas B did. B also has 3 relics and the 4th one in the hands of a monk. Now we are seeing some camel riders being added here by Mista, but against the Jugenu, they don't fare well either. You get the feel that Mista is at the brink of collapse in this game.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty for him. He's got every single unit out that you probably wouldn't want to make against the Chokunu. He's got spears out. He's got camel riders out. He's got crossbows out. But I mean, realistically, at this point, he just needs to be getting out a lot of horsemen. That's the only thing that's really going to be able to take this down. And even then, it's going to be very difficult for them. A couple more villagers coming forward right now. Oh no! Do we see a forward castle? Indeed, we do. So B really not finished with his agenda here at adding the or taking defensive buildings and then just removing that first word and just calling them buildings, and maybe even adding in another word. Offensive buildings. I don't know about you, but I've been offended by the way he's played. It's been absolutely brilliant.
It was a really good gameplay here. Now, Mista has 3 mangonels over here, so B has to be very careful, because one way to lose a game would be to lose that big mass of Jugenu, but I mean, if you look at B and his resource bank, he could just start selling wood and potentially go up to Imperial, start getting some clock tower bombards going, start getting some hand cannoneers going. There would be a whole lot of options. It looks like he's just going to swoop in on the north, kill a couple of gold miners. Mista slowly building up his villager numbers, but he's just losing so many villagers all over again.
Look at what's happening right now for B. B is literally dropping down an outpost on the front line here, and a mangonel is just going to say, excuse me, sir, you're not going to do that. And he completely destroys it. That's the first time that B sees the mangonels doing a bit of a split right now. He's looking like a gymnast on a Tuesday. B, once again, trying to provoke his opponent into an attack without taking too much damage himself. We see those mangonels continuing to fire off into the I guess, what's the area that the gymnast performs on? You know that bouncy little thing that they've got?
Nope. But you could just call that gym, because that's the reason why he's a gymnast.
Oh, man. It's not looking...
Oh, man.
That was good. That was good. But now, looks like Lance is going to be trying to move forward, getting pretty decently screened by those spears. Still, we continue to see those mangonels firing off, and finally now it looks like a Springald going to be coming out and doing some damage here, focusing down the mangonels. In fact, not really focusing them down, actually just spreading the love out. You can see the first shot went into this mangonel on the top side. Middle mangonel still under a bit of attack, and B trying his best to hold on, getting a bit overrun here. I'm worried a bit for B right now as Mista continues to make waves.
He is going to take down the Mangonels now. And the weird thing here is that B took probably the worst possible fight that he could have taken, and he's still in a commanding position because he's taking down the Mangonels. And at this point, as you said, he still has that fourth position to keep. And now you see a lot of stables being dropped. What does that tell you?
That tells you that he likes to make buildings.
That is true. That is 100% true. And that means UN Dynasty as a possibility. We're seeing Lancers pop out, but one has to wonder if he will start switching to Fire Lancers with that many stables. Ram is knocking on that key, but that's going to be short-lived. Mista is back on track with the villager count, though. He's at 85, so he's slowly increasing that. And he's got a fairly sizable army as well, but his opponent is at pop cap right now. And he also has multiple sacred sites, so not only relics, but also sacred sites.
Yeah, the big thing for Mista right now is no food whatsoever. He is looking absolutely, absolutely... I'm trying to think of what the correct term is, but I'm just like getting faminous. He's not looking particularly healthy. Yeah, he's looking very hungry right now. He is expanding up towards the north. There are some berry bushes that are existent up here, but he's yet to expand to these despite playing as the Abbasid dynasty. He's going to be moving back towards his base. He's got a couple of rams that have gone down, but now the push coming in towards his base. A lot of villagers going down. Sitting on 88 villagers, 138 for his opponent, and Mista taps out. B is victorious. Comes back and claims the second game in the series between these two titans of Age of Empires.
What a game this was. Really, one of the cheesiest games that we have seen in a long time. And Mista came into this game with a game plan. He was like, okay, I'm gonna play Abbasids. I have a good game plan. He probably was expecting something like French from the opponent or just something of a meta civilization. And then B just pops out that Barbican rush. And when he was doing that, I was thinking about one thing. Whether or not he's just tilted because of the first game and he's just gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna YOLO this set. Because Mista is the favorite of this set. And if B believes he has no chance, we've talked about this, he's gonna go full YOLO. And I was thinking,
full YOLO.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it's like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna try this. And I don't really have hopes of it working. I'm just gonna try my best with this crazy strategy. And oftentimes we're seeing these off-meta crazy strats push off some very strong players because this is 100% not something that you would have expected. Of course, you can say that, hey, it's a possibility. It's something that could be done on the ladder, but being something that can be done on the ladder doesn't mean that you do it in a big tournament like this, and B just pulled off a move like that.
Yeah, incredible stuff from B. He played incredibly well. Mista definitely taken a little bit by surprise in that one. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you check out the next game in this series. It's going to be coming up right after this one. But more importantly, make sure you check out Lidakor. I'll leave a link in the description. You can catch more Age of Empires 4 content just like this video. We'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, Lidakor, the YouTube guys have been zoned out. Now we can be cool. All right, YouTube guys are gone.
I was just wanting to make sure before I say it, you make the cut for the YouTube and then you can say, tune in for the next game. Don't tune in for the next game because we have a Rus mirror coming in.
Oh, don't. Yeah, all right. Okay, I'll be back in, what do you reckon, 7 minutes, 8 minutes maybe?
9? I'm just going to go with my 9.
The next game, I'm just going to open it up with like, hey guys, so a little bit of a clickbait on the title. It isn't actually me interviewing. I'm trying to think of someone cool to interview.
Elvis Presley.
It's not me interviewing Elvis Presley. It's another Rus mirror on Boulder Bay. So yeah, I'm sorry.
So in the meantime, how fast does grass grow? Most grass seed will start growing in about 10 to 14 days, but sometimes it can take up to 30 days. When you're planting new seed in your yard, it can seem like it's taking forever to start sprouting.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It would take a long time. Well, I'll be back in a minute, Lidakor. I'm going to go grab my blanket and pillow from the bedroom. Just want to make sure I'm fully prepared for this game.
Oh well, I guess the duty of casting will just fall onto me then, having that wonderful and magical Rus mirror cast. The ultimate surprise would be if this wasn't Boulder Bay, because if this is not Boulder Bay, suddenly that becomes an intriguing matchup, but I get that bad feel that this is gonna be a Boulder Bay game. Oh, Aussie's bringing in the blanket and the pillow. Resident Sleeper. It hasn't even started yet.
I see it starting. I see it starting. It's starting, Lidakor. B is in game. I'm going to invite him to a group. Just give me a second here.
B is in game. Mista is in game as well. One thing is sure, we don't want to restart our games right now because, as you said, this could be 6 minutes, this could be 9 minutes.
Yes.
Would be very surprised if it was anything else than that. So we have our countdown begin. I guess it's time to bring in some refreshments for those of you that are hungry for an absolute beautiful Rus mirror on Boulder Bay, because I assume our map is going to be Boulder Bay.
It is not actually. It's going to be Boring Bay. Yeah, it's Boulder Bay. Fuck.
Okay, so what we're going to do is that I have a list of interesting facts about Moss. And that's something that I will read out to you while we're watching that game, so you will have a better entertainment than just watching Ross mirrors. So, mosses are small, non-vascular, flowerless plants in the taxonomic division Bryophyta sensus stricto. Bryophyta may also refer to a parent group of bryophytes, which comprise liverworts, mosses, and hornworts.
Wow. Well, I guess I'm impressed with your knowledge.
Well, you should be impressed with Wikipedia, and the only thing that I have an impressive ability with is just opening it up on my second monitor so I can see when the game starts on my primary monitor.
Well, I'm in random Twitch people's chats. So I'm just going to start spamming emotes. I always feel like that's a great way to pass the time. So yeah, I mean, you keep talking about Moss. I'm just going to keep spamming.
Oh, like it's your turn to entertain people because I want to bring in something to drink. It's like, please don't spam Resident Sleepers. Oh yeah, I'll be back in a second because I need something to drink here, and well, it's going to be a very difficult thing to avoid drinking something that's just considered a light beverage before a match like this.
Well, I was going to put on some like halftime entertainment, but I don't even have any halftime entertainment online. It's like it's
can
tough.
Sing. You can sing your song about Chinese. That's a perfect time for that. I'll be back in a second, so you will be able to do that uninterrupted.
I guess I could do that. I need you guys to help me come up with the lyrics. It's got to be Backstreet Boys. It's got to be the song Drowning. It's got the right mood for it. It's got to be like this. So he comes in, he says, "Don't pretend you're sorry." I think it could be like, "Don't pretend you're buffing. I know you're not." Oh, that could work. That could really work. Oh, we could get these lyrics. Beautiful. "Don't pretend you're Don Hardy." Oh, Nifuna, we've already done that one. "I just came back and it's Boulder Bay. I'm sorry, Jarush." Yeah, it's Boulder Bay. But we've actually changed the name of Boulder Bay from Boulder Bay to Boredom Bay. So I'm actually going to be introducing it as that. Predictions. Vigo, you really want predictions on a Rus mirror on Boulder Bay? I mean, I'll give it to you. What game is this? I think this is game number 3. All right. Predictions are up, ladies and gentlemen. Get your predictions in. Who is going to be the victor here today? Because I've got a feeling it is going to be one of these two. Option number 1, you've got a nobody. And option number 2, you've also got nobody to be the victor here today. Because we are enjoying a Rus mirror. Enjoying.
Enjoying.
Well, you know, Lidakor.
Yep.
My mouse has a battery life of 180 hours. Do you know when it starts flashing?
Right now?
Yeah, right now. Right now. Bastard.
You know, there is a very easy way to avoid that. A way that has been designed and pioneered by hundreds of people over years.
I would love to hear from you about that, but unfortunately, my headphones have got a cord on them, so I'm going to have to get up to go and grab the charging cable for my mouse. But when I'm back, I'd love to put on my corded earphones and hear a bit more. Oh my god, it's got 10 seconds to go. How can I possibly reach it? Oh, Lidakor, we are going to be... All right, hopefully this game doesn't go longer than 3 minutes. Oh gosh. All right, I'm introducing. Here we go, Lidakor. G'day, fellas, and welcome to a casted game on a brand new map in Age of Empires 4, one that has never been seen before. You may be familiar with Boulder Bay, you may be familiar with Bona Bay, but have you seen Boredom Bay? This is the brand new map coming out for Age of Empires 4. Mista is going to be spawning in the south of the map, playing on the Rus, his opponent. I've fallen asleep already, Lidakor. This is another Rus mirror on Boulder Bay. Surely there has got to be something else that is going on in this game today.
I certainly hope so. At least looking at the fish positions, you can say that B got himself a very lucky dock position over there, right next to the shoreline. But as you said, it is a matchup that we have been seeing more and more, and unfortunately, it is currently just so Rus-sided out here. You got a house coming in for Mista, but he dropped the dock first. This is the usual meta. You have to drop your dock, but drop your dock. That's a nice tongue twister. Anyways, you have to drop your dock at first and then drop the house after it, because if you delay your dock by just, let's say 15-20 seconds, you already fall behind by half fishing ship, and this matchup is really about having 5 to 10 seconds advantage going into Feudal Age.
Well, I'm glad that you've explained that to us, and I'd love to take this matchup a bit more seriously, but I'm guaranteeing you, at this point in time, anybody who's watching this on Twitch or anybody who's clicking this video on YouTube's probably seen this matchup on this map a few times in the last couple of days, last couple of weeks even. It's becoming a more and more regular thing, so I think we might switch it up a little bit, Lidakor. I don't know how we're going to switch. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how we're going to possibly switch it up. I'm going to start... Let's do bets on how long this game is going to go, Lidakor. The closest person, they get a special reward. A mystery reward.
A mystery reward. One thing to note is that Mista has placed his dock at probably the worst possible spot. Obviously, the players can't scout the deep fish with their scout because their line of sight isn't usually big enough to spot it. But you see that his dock is just far away from both of those deep fish droplets. Whereas for B, he actually found the best possible spot for himself. So this is already a big advantage over here for B. Exactly what he wants to start with over here.
There are many fish that are out on this map. Unfortunately, yeah, you're actually 100% missed a little bit of a distance that he's got to travel out here. So I'm just going to do some quick calculation here. How many seconds? Or let's count how many seconds. I want to do the math. All right, how many seconds does it take for the Lodya attack ship, or the Lodya fishing boat to get over there? Okay, let's count. Here it comes. 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds for it to get over there. And it means over the course of 4 fishing boats, that's 36 seconds that he's not gathering where his opponent is gathering. And you can see now he's clicked up to the next age, 9 villages on that landmark. Let's compare it over to B, and you can see how much further ahead he is. Is this the worst Rus spawn ever, Lidakor?
Possibly. And you see that B is going to be up to Feudal Age faster and only building it with 8 villagers. And I was looking at the resources while you were counting. I was like, dude, Mista had like 200 food in the bank, and B already had the 400 he needed. And there is already the first couple of damage potentially done. There is the first fishing ship out there, only one being sent. But as you see, it's cutting off the retreat path as well to the dock. And because Mista is so far away, he's going to have to sail all the way back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Boulder Bay. I am Aussie Drongo. I'll be your host today. We've got a short match for you. Currently tuning in, it's 4 minutes through this game. I suspect it probably won't be going for much longer. I'll give you a minute at tops.
Oh, no.
Because unfortunately, it looks like we've got a bit of a... He just deleted the boat.
Yeah,
he said, I'm not even going to do it.
He had to. I mean, if you think about it, he was converting it into a combat ship, and the worst thing that can happen is that you convert it, and it is already damaged because it was exposed to that combat ship. He was behind in that conversion process. He had to delete that, otherwise he would have had no use of that combat ship. This way, at least, he probably got the resources back, I presume.
B already with an absolutely demolishing opening here, managing to sneak out a little bit of victory so far. But look at this. You call that a deep water fish? That's not a deep water fish. Look how close that deep water fish is there for B right now. This is not a deep water fish. This is barely a shallow water fish. B now going to be looking to potentially add a bit more in when it comes to the forces of his opponent. Mista moving up towards the north. He unfortunately takes a few shots there. We see them trying to begin trading out. It looks like we've got the double lodger attack ship transition coming over on that position as well. And now down towards the south. Well, at least it's over, Lidakor. I got no idea what triggered that, but I have enjoyed this game a lot more than I have other Rus mirrors. So, to all those watching on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. That was great fun. What happened there? What happened there? What happened right there?
I wish I knew. Like seriously, I feel like looking at those feudal age times, I was like 80% sure that Mista is in like serious trouble with all those fish. But then he just sent forth his combat ships. He probably felt like he was gonna be able to do some damage, and then he saw the numbers of the opponent. Like, that's the only thing I can think about. He saw how many combat ships the opponent has, and he saw how many he has, and he's like, okay, whatever. Or maybe he himself is like, okay, I'm behind on this, and I have no desire to play this map in this matchup, because he knows how important water is. He might just be like, okay, I'm on the back foot. There is no point struggling for 15 minutes or 20 minutes in this game, where we already know that B has a big advantage.
Okay, that's a little bit awkward. I tried to reload the replay just to see exactly what is happening. My game just crashed. But I will note that before this game started, I ran a little bit of a poll on my channel, a prediction, if you will. And I asked the question, who will win the following game? Do you know what the two options were, Lidakor?
Yes and no.
No, the two options were nobody and no one. And it really seems like at this point, nobody won that last game. I mean, the viewers didn't win. I didn't have a good experience as a caster. Definitely, hold on. Oh, that's, what am I? I'm looking at Lenok. I want to be looking at B. There we go. Yeah, I've got really no idea what happened in that game and what contributed to that. I'm going to go do a little bit of inspection. I want to see, apparently there might have been a bit of action down towards the south.
Yeah, the wreck is accessible now.
I've got good news. I mean, it's good news for some, bad news for others. It was the wrong map. So they used the wrong map seed.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, because the thing is that every time, like the way this works, and this is, I think, a good talking point for the viewers that might not know how this works. So the way it works is that for the later rounds of tournaments, the admin is giving you a seed. These seeds are pre-picked. It's impossible to make perfect seeds, because what the admins basically do before the tournament is just generate hundreds of maps and pick the best ones. But one thing that happens is that the seed is only given to the players immediately before start. Like, the players set everything up, the map, the colors, the civilizations, and the last thing that they do is tell the admin, we are ready, and then the admin gives them the seed. This is usually done in a way that both players have to say ready, and after they receive the seed, they have to start in like at maximum 30 seconds. This ensures that neither of the players can just open up the seed in a single player mode and see how the map looks like before playing the game. It's not like anybody's assuming that these players would cheat, but it's an extra level of security. So oftentimes what could happen is that maybe you just forgot to enter that seed and you press launch.
Yeah, okay, that would make a lot of sense. Interestingly, I don't know what's going on, but I see Mista is in lobby. I see 3D as in game. I can't inspect either of them. But I will remind you.
Probably means that
I will remind
B
you
hasn't
of my
quit
prediction.
Yet.
Hasn't quit yet?
Yeah, if he hasn't quit yet, like he's still on that statistics screen, then he's probably shown as being in game, and Mista's probably the one hosting. In fact, Mista is the host of the lobbies because he's the blue color. So he's hosting the new lobby already. B is currently AFK. It's possible that he's also discussing something with the admins because now, obviously, this is one of those situations where he was in an advantageous position, but we have to agree that the map was so good for him, and it would
Oh
explain
yeah,
why the
no,
map was so
there's
good for him and so bad for Mista if
yeah.
they didn't use the appropriate seed, because there is no way that this was an admin's pricked seed. When the game started, I was a little hesitant to say if this was an issue, but I was like, there is no way they screwed it up, right? There's no way they forgot to enter the seed or something.
That was a very obvious map mismatch. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely contribute that loss 100% to that map spawn. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it, but obviously incredibly cutthroat game. Now, I draw your attention back towards that prediction. I asked who will win game 3. Your options were no one, nobody. Unfortunately, neither of you guys win. I'm going to have to return your points because everybody won, because the Rus game lasted only 5 minutes and 21 seconds. And I had a great time. I had an absolutely amazing time.
Well, the only people that win are going to be the ones that love Rus mirrors, because we're going to have to review that once again, because if this is indeed a bad map, then this has to be replayed, and it's not just going to be a win given to be... I was secretly hoping that this is just Mista saying, okay, whatever, I give up on this, so we can actually go for more meaningful maps. But it seems to be the case that we're gonna have another Boulder Bay game coming up. Maybe B's also sleeping. That's why he's still in the game. Just
Yeah,
imagine
I wouldn't
that.
be surprised. It wouldn't be the first time it's happened. I've seen multiple Age of Empires games where people have slept. In fact, I just watched this one game, 95 hours long. People were sleeping through it all the time.
Yeah, I wonder why. I really wonder why. At least they had the option to pause, speaking of which, Age of Empires 4 does not have it.
Let's add that on the list of things that we're not going to add to the game that kind of need it.
Yep, I agree with that. Speaking of which, a save and restore would also be valuable, so we don't have a crash either. But, you know, one can dream, and one has to argue if those are more important than just potentially having some changes to the water meta, so it's no longer either French mirrors or Rus mirrors.
Very interesting.
Back in the days when French mirrors were so powerful, like, it's so weird, you know, for a long time Borderway wasn't played because it was French being so powerful, and then now it's Rus being powerful. Like, even I could defeat Hera in the first days of AoE 4 on Border Bay. Like, that just tells you how OP French were. It's like, he had no idea about the Hawks, and I was like, okay, I got Hera in the matchmaking, what do I do?
Yeah, it's interesting to see how far it's come. I'm actually receiving reports that apparently they're not even going to be remaking that game.
Ooh. Ooh. I'm not sure if I'm sad or happy about that. I don't think that I've ever been sad or ever been happy about a game not being replayed. If it was
what happened was they didn't check the correct biome, and that resulted in a different seed occurring. So when you do the seeds, it has to be the identical biome.
Yep, it has to be the identical biome, because the seeds are consistent within the same biome and the same map, but not across biomes. The thing I'm a little surprised about is why are we changing biomes? Because if you really want to mess around with seeds, you should just set the default biome, like whatever it is, temperate, European, and then you don't even have that risk. I'm not sure why you're even messing around with biomes in lobbies, because they don't actually add anything to the game as far as I know. It's just a aesthetics thing.
Look, when it comes to the way that spaghetti code is written, my friend, I encourage you to remember that nothing makes sense, other than the fact that nothing makes sense in itself. But I guess that's interesting, because would have Mista, like, I'm just thinking, I don't know the exact way that it works, but obviously these two guys, they're sitting at their computers, they're looking directly at their screens. It's not like they're sitting on the line with the admin and the admins put their hand up and said, hey, fellas, stop fighting. This is a restart. Like, obviously Mista resigned that position and said, hey, like, I had no fish. I got up really late. It was a very hard game. And the admin said, yeah, you didn't have any fish. You fucked up the biome. And so the fish didn't spawn for you. So,
And there is an added effect. As I said, Mista was the host. So
yeah,
technically, it was his
it's his
responsibility to make sure
obligation.
it's set. It's actually a very harsh thing because, based on this, no one ever would want to be the host because there's just some
Exactly.
added pressure. But yeah,
Exactly.
like you could really question if this is something that would be legitimate to reply. It's one of those situations where the most honest assessment I can make is that I'm not the host or the admin of this tournament, and I'm not the one that has to deal with all the drama that's coming with this. But one thing I can tell you is that we have two additional civilizations picked, Delhi and Holy Roman Empire for B, and Delhi for Mista. So we have new civs picked, which implies that they are not going to replay this.
So you're telling me that everybody did win because the game literally lasted for 5 minutes and 21 seconds.
Well, at least it was done fast enough. So let's focus on a new game because after Boulder Bay, the sun is shining again. People are just cheering on the streets. Everybody is happy. What do we think about the next map? Because now we're going to one of
Before,
Mista's home maps, Hill and Dale or King of the Hill. And you got B with the HRE, which makes me
oh,
believe that he wants to go for Hill and Dale. And then if Mista counterpick that with Delhi, Mista has a big civ advantage there.
yeah, 100%. I think this is a very, very difficult matchup to win as the Holy Roman Empire here. I'm curious to see what route he goes, and will we potentially see a salami strategy coming out of him? Have you seen this, the new salami strategy?
Depends on what you think about, because Salami has been grinding the Delhi day and night, but enlighten me.
Okay, the salami strategy is it's a little bit of an interesting one. Now, a lot of people would be heading into a game against. Oh, sorry, I'm just fixing up these predictions. Who will win game number 4? Get your bets in now, ladies and gentlemen. So you would think that like it makes sense as the Mista playing as the Delhi Sultanate to go for early sacred sites because he's got access to sanctity, and that's his game plan. But it's more important in the overarching sort of way that the game plays that as the Delhi, he denies the relics from the Holy Roman Empire. So what we might see is what I like to call the salami fast castle. And that's where he heads back to his Delhi, because Delhi, Sultanate, Delhi, that's where he gets his salami. He heads back to his Delhi, grabs out his biggest salami stick, and he goes straight to the castle age, sending out his affordable, cheap scholars, which he made from his Dome of the Faith, out towards the relics on the map, and he looks to steal every single relic, bringing them in before the 8th minute.
Yeah, exactly. I can agree with that. This is something that we have seen from multiple people, so that's why I was a little confused calling this a salami strategy, but indeed, that's basically the way that you counter pick an otherwise meta pick, because HR is the meta here, and it's somewhat predictable that one player is going to pick it. So the Delhi is a great response because you can establish a very good map presence with the efficient production, making it difficult for the HRE to access the relics, and then you can just build on that map presence with the sacred sites, carve out a pretty decent castle age timing, and once you have that castle age, as you said, it's all about just yoinking those relics away. So the Delhi have that combination of being able to have a good map presence and being able to leverage that for a good economy as well, using the sacred sites.
I'm curious to see whether 3DB is going to be thinking a little bit more outside the box. We know him as a very typically non-forward thinking player, or sorry, non-straightforward thinking player. Always likes to think outside the box. I'm thinking he's got something up his sleeves. He's not going to fall into this gap. He's not going to fall in and just, oh, yeah, okay, I'm playing up against a Delhi. He's going to take sacred sites. I'm going to go fast castle and get the relics. No, he's not like that. He's going to be like, yeah, he knows exactly what's going on. He is going to come into this game. He's like, all right, I'm going to blast your ass with so many strategies. You are going to be like, it's going to sound like Donald Trump is listing off the strategies he's got. That's what he's going to be like. There's going to be so many strategies. I can't do a Donald Trump. I'm sorry.
We have 1.5 minutes left to go. As you said, you will need to pull off something special here with the HRE against the Delhi, because this is a very difficult matchup for them. We've talked about certain civilizations, like in many cases we're seeing Abbasids being a great response to the French on open maps like that, and Delhi is a great response to the Holy Roman Empire here. This is going to be an uphill battle for B, and we also have to keep in mind that if B loses this, then he could be in trouble, because HRE would still be available for Mista for something like King of the Hill, and HRE is not a pushover civilization by any means. In fact, it's a quite powerful civilization, and something that has a lot of appeal on any kind of map. It's mostly focused around these slower paced maps, but especially in Mista's hands, I would be very afraid if I lost this game here.
I hear you, but I am just getting my my cord to charge up my mouse. Give me a second here, Lidakor. You're looking after the children.
Alright, kids, so you want to hear the story of the mosses? Because, oh, I closed that window. You're lucky. You're gonna be saved away from the mosses. So instead of that, I'm going to tell you the ultimate way to make sure that your mouse doesn't get run out of power. So there was a method. This was pioneered by hundreds of people over years. And it's very simple. The only thing that you need to make sure that your mouse never runs out of battery is to just have a corded mouse instead of a wireless. That's exactly what I'm doing, and it works 100% of the times. And I think Drongo is back just in time to take us into game number 4.
Indeed I am. G'day, fellas, and welcome to a casted game. Spawning in on the north side of the map, we have got TheMista, who is playing the Delhi Sultanate. His opponent, who spawns on the opposite side of the map, Lidakor. Who could it possibly be?
It is, as you said, who could it possibly be? He is coming in with the Red Holy Roman Empire here. As you said, he's going to have to pull something off that's a little surprising here, because the Delhi is just such a powerful civilization that has so good answers to what the HRE can do here. So really, the issue has to be forced here by B, and it is really his game plan that is going to be the wild card of this game.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about how we expected this game to unfold, and we'll talk a little bit more now that you guys are with us here on YouTube, so welcome, fellas. We've got efficient production with Piety coming out from Mista, and then on the other side of the map, I'm assuming that we've got Scout and the Prelate. Yeah, indeed we do. Double Scout going to be coming out for B. So, the Delhi Sultanate have become the #1 pick on this map, and there is a good reason why, and that is because of their ability to control the sacred sites, and their ability to wall in their enemies nice and early. As a response to that, though, the Holy Roman Empire have also been always traditionally a relatively good pick on this map. Just because they sit up a little bit safer, a little bit higher, they're able to be a bit more defensive, and they like to do that. The problem is that the Delhi Sultanate will probably lose a game against the Holy Roman Empire if they allow them to collect those relics. So the Delhi Sultanate, despite wanting to capture these sacred sites out of the map, are going to need to deny the relics from their enemy. Now, Lidakor, how do they do that?
Well, efficient production, as you said, is the key thing here, being able to accelerate your production, just going very aggressive in Feudal Age, because the most that you are going to see from HRE players when it comes to contesting map control is making a couple of horsemen, potentially. So if the Delhi go very aggressive, potentially horsemen, spearmen, or spearmen archers, they will have a very good map presence out there, and they can potentially pick off prelates coming in. And as long as they're out there on the map, they can also capture at least one sacred site, so they can even capitalize on that. As you said, priority is not the sacred sites, but as a side effect of establishing map control to deny relics, you will also try to build towards those sacred sites so that you are going to have that extra gold income allowing you to get to castle.
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of the things I wanted to mention as well is that we may potentially see the salami build order coming out. This is something that has been used multiple times throughout the games today that we've seen, and it is the incredibly fast castle. So we could see Mista do it here. We'll take a look at his base and see exactly what he's got coming out. Mining camp obviously going to be helping out collect that gold. He is going for the Dome of the Faith, so nothing really different here. But the salami build, as I like to call it, is where you come out with your scholars a little bit earlier. So typically oh my god, look what B is doing. He's going for a Minework Palace. We
Yes.
are getting something different. We are getting something
boy.
different. Oh, baby.
Boy. This could be an absolute disaster or a thing of beauty. And after the second game of this set, I'm hesitant to say if this is gonna be a disaster. Because when I looked at those villagers moving forward in game number 2, I was like, oh shoot, this could be a disaster. But I'm just hesitant to say that now. He's rushing it up with 7. This could be a
Why?
masterpiece or a disaster piece here.
What is going on that he's got 7 villages on this? I can't wait to see this. Just to finish off a little bit about what we were talking about. So the game plan typically against the Delhi is that, as the Delhi against the Holy Roman Empire, you need to deny those relics. You can see there's 5 relics out on the map here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the best way to do that as the Delhi is to go for a super fast castle. So we may potentially see that coming out from Mista. Go up at about 7 minutes, 7 minutes 10. Have your scholars immediately pick up those relics and then deny them completely from your enemy. And B knows this. Coming into this game, he knows what Mista is thinking. He knows he's going to go for something like this. And so he says, I'm going to take you to school, my friend, and I'm going to teach you some new tricks.
And I love this idea. So the concept here is that the Delhi player is assuming that B is going for the Aachen Chapel, strong economy, early castle age, that type of a thing. So he's going to start popping out the barracks, come up with a couple of military units. The Delhi player at this point is going to have a slightly extended feudal age because looking at those resources, you're not going to have a fast castle anytime soon for Mista, or at least not without a single sacred sites giving him a ton of gold. But because of that, B is like, okay, if the Delhi player is staying long enough in feudal age, I can just capitalize on my feudal age over here. The interesting approach is that while the Minework Palace is up over here, it's not really being used to anything up until now. He's just now dropping the barracks, and you gotta love how he's pushing in the deer close to the town center, and this way he can save up on 1 mil, and he can also have those deer in the range of the prelate. He's gonna need a second prelate to boost his gold miners and lumberjacks, but this is actually more efficient right now than an Aachen Chapel, because that second prelate is also going to guarantee all of your villagers being boosted, but this way you're gonna be able to get some upgrades. Especially marching drills in feudal age is extremely impactful, but he's opening up with that. He canceled different upgrade for it.
I mean, exactly. It's a really good point to bring up these scouts. You know, typically, I've said in the past, you know, I think it's a good idea if you're to get professional scouts as a technology, it should change the name of your scouts to professional scout. But by the same token, what we just witnessed there, I mean, that was pretty much amateur scouts coming out. But I tell you what, they're looking pretty damn well, and I suspect they're on the way to being professionals very shortly. But now we see Mista beginning to wall up the base of his enemy. Single spears heading out on each flank and just keeping that front door open. And now we see a bit of a counter coming down. Look at that.
Oh, look at that. That's a beautiful mind game from B.
Oh,
he knew exactly what was coming, and he's just going to preemptively ball it.
This is just, I am just so continually impressed by this guy. Insane stuff that we're seeing out of him. Now, he doesn't even finish the walls. He just says, I'm gonna do my own thing. Now, interestingly, he didn't go all the way, and that's something to always be aware of. I guess he's got the spearman coming out. He doesn't even need to worry about going all the way. He gets the first stab off here. He's going to be absolutely fine. He does indeed get the first stab off. That spear's going to have to run away now. Beautiful play by B. Honestly, this guy has got the brain the size of a watermelon in the head the size of a walnut. I don't know how he manages to do it, but it is impressive.
And he's gonna have marching drills finished, so his spearman will be able to chase down that spear as well. On the left side, he's getting walled in, but he's going to be completely fine with that. He has the front open, he has the right side open, and the magical thing here is that, as we discussed, the Aachen Chapel is nice, but 2 prelates will accomplish something very similar, and if you look at those resources, even with all those upgrades coming in, he's already at 400 food and 300 golds. It's not even very far away from Castle Age.
Yeah, this is really interesting to see. I'm kind of curious at this point if he's actually going to go for what I theorize to be one of the greatest all-ins to ever. I wanted to say that really coolly, but it just didn't sound that cool. I wanted to see, you know, one of the greatest strategies to ever grace the servers of Age of Empires 4. So the theory is Minework Palace into the Burgrave Chapel. And so what that would enable you to do is get all your upgrades nice and early, and then subsequently utilize that big boost in production you're going to have by going for the Burgrave Palace, and then just pushing in with that and just taking your enemy out. You're going to be able to get siege engineering. You're going to be able to get your movement speed. You're able to get all of your upgrades in. I can't remember if it's called the Burgrave Chapel or the Burgrave...
It's a palace.
Is it the Burgrave Palace?
It's a palace.
I mean, we've got the Archon Chapel. We've got lots of chapels, so I guess, you know what?
Nope.
We'll call it the Burgrave Palace. All right, I'll accept that.
Fun fact, 4 out of the 6 landmarks for the Holy Roman Empire are called Palace, with the Meinwerk Palace, the Burgrave Palace, Elsbach Palace, and the Palace of Swabia. It is the most palace-heavy civilization of all, if I may say so.
I will permit that. I will permit that. You are a man familiar with palaces, it seems. And I'm quite out of my league when it comes to those palaces. The only palaces I've read about are in the corruption reports of the Russians. But other than that, yeah, very rarely interact with them.
Looks like Mista might actually get away with some wars over here, because B has no idea about those coming up. Okay, he sees it. He sees that spearman building that wall. If that wall was just 1 tile further away from the town center of B, B would have no idea, and Mista would get away with this. Mista going for the sacred sites right now, but on the other hand, you see B getting ready to go into Castland. That is no less than 5 scholars moving out from Mista. What is he up to?
Yeah, so it looks like he might be going for, I mean, 5 scholars, really? 5 scholars? Yeah. What is he doing? 5 scholars? What's going on out here? He's looking to heal up a party, it seems. Scholars now going to start healing themselves up. We're going to have that landmark coming down. It's going to be the Regnitz Cathedral. I got incredibly excited about the possibility of a palace coming out today, but it seems like those are just going to have to remain in those corruption reports for today. B now clicking up. Yeah, 16 villages on that Regnitz. You can see he's got quite a few. I like the scholar play from him. The fact he's got 5 scholars out here. The issue is that there's going to be relics out on the field before B is up to the 3rd age. And once he gets up, they're still going to be sitting out there, which means that Mista hasn't really done his job in denying relics yet from his opponent, because those relics are still out there. But that doesn't mean the game is necessarily over. He can delay them from being picked up. But B is now up to the 3rd age. In 10 minutes, he's going to have access to the knight. He's going to have access to his men-at-arms, and or rather, he's already got access to the men-at-arms, the upgraded men-at-arms, the veteran men-at-arms, the big boy men-at-arms.
Or just the knights, indeed, as you said. And with the Mindwork Palace, he can get the range defense upgrade really fast. But look at that. Mista is just marching into the opponent's base over here, because that wall does not belong to B. It does belong to Mista. And this gives him a lot of flexibility, because guess what? He can just retreat behind his walls if he doesn't feel like he wants to take the fight inside the base of B. B, on the other hand, should be able to pick up 2 relics from the right, and there is one on the left side that is going to be accessible. So B will likely have at least 2 relics unless a miracle happens here.
Yeah, we can see that B now might be under potential threat. He's got only 90 health on that bad boy, and the spears come down as the Wallalol does go off. He's unfortunately not going to have a lot of time as the now reinforcements come in. Does get cleaned up, but that relic does move slightly closer to his base, so going to have a bit less of a run, and every time he brings out a prelate, it's going to be able to be a little bit closer. But now we see that prelate coming in on the back line. It looks like it might almost be coming in to do a bit of a flank here. The prelate with the scholar flank, it seems. Mista now going to be clicking up to the next stage. You can see he's having a bit of a tough time. 8 villagers going to be dropping that one down, then going up with the House of Learning. But I would have expected a few more villagers on that landmark and look to secure those relics a little bit sooner. But now this fight looking to unfold out on the map outside the base of B. It looks like he's managed to secure up that relic. But he's going to be trying his best, Mista, to deny this relic from him. Let's see how well he manages to do it. Looks like the Wallalol isn't going to get off, and unfortunately, all of these forces are going to get taken out. So Mista doing a pretty decent job of securing the early game forces. He does hand over 1 relic towards his opponent, and he has managed to get it back inside the Regnitz Cathedral. But he's facing a significant mass of military on this front.
He is facing a lot indeed, and he just doesn't have anything to hold this off with. It's 12 army against 41. And it's right now just 1 relic for B, so that is going to be insufficient. And with all those horsemen ready to jump on those gold miners, B could be in serious trouble here. Having the right side open is an absolute disaster for him right now.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty. And keep in mind behind this, Mista is going up to the third age. He's going to be able to move. How many scholars did he have out on the field? I think you said it was
4.
5 scholars that were out on the field. So yeah, it's a huge amount of religious units that are out there. And now we see that he's actually pulled them into the base. He's brought 4 scholars here with him. But those bad boys are going to be needing to head out onto the map and potentially pick up relics. If we take a look, we can see that there are still 4 relics out there to be had. So 2 relics over on the right-hand side, 2 relics over on the left-hand side of either player's base. Sacred Site up to the west also getting neutralized. But we hear a relic getting picked up for Mista. Let's see and find if we can spot where it is. It's going to be the one that was closest to B's base, the one that he tried carrying back.
That's where he left one of the prelates out there, and you see both of the sides are using their healing units to great effect here in this battle. Part of the reason why Mista isn't losing against knights here with archers and horsemen is because he's got those scholars healing, and things are heating up here for B. He's pulling villagers, trying to poke down all those horsemen. At this point for Mista, he just needs to maximize his damage output, pick off the prelates as he's doing right now, focus down the villagers, because he's doing a ton of damage at the eco of B.
Yeah, I got to agree with you as well. B has managed to overwhelm his opponent here. It looks like he's probably going to be able to take it out, but at the same time, we've now got Lancers beginning to run in through the base of B. The front door was left open because I tell you what, B did not have the key for it. It was actually held by Mista, and now he's going to be able to pull away with a number of relics. It looks like a second relic has been picked up. At least Mista maybe doing a little bit of miss micro here. This relic was quite far out, it seems. It was indeed a bit of miss micro, but looks like B is going to be able to repel the battle, or repel the army that was pushing in at the front. He repels the army that was pushing in over towards the right side of his base as well, and now begins to push out.
But what does he have left? He's behind by 11 villagers. He currently has 1 relic in the Regnitz Cathedral with the potential to maybe pick up the second one, but in order to pick up the second one, he would have to walk all the way around, and Mista is actually trying to Vololo some of those knights away.
He probably could have taken out that. That scholar, I suspect. I think he still might have the chance to do it. Keep in mind, it's sort of that whole concept when you go in and take out villagers in the base of a player when you're playing as the French. But it looks like he's going to be able to pick up that relic anyway. The scholar does stand idly by, and I'm sure he'll realize as well. Eventually, a villager getting in there, also bringing out the dagger. It does get called back, but yeah, Mista looking like he's in quite a lead at this point in time.
He is indeed. And it seemed like he wanted to convert with that relic. He didn't just bring it back. He was standing around for a long time waiting for a conversion. In the middle, B breaks out finally, and that's going to be crucial because to access that relic on the left side, he's going to have to move all the way out there. But Mista is already ready to meet him on the battlefield, and it is still 29 army over just 14.
Yeah, pretty significant difference between these two players. B continuing to struggle for 40 villagers at the moment versus the 52 of Mista. And that relic is heading back towards the base of Mista. It's only a matter of time until it is safely secured behind there. And you can see that Mista hiding, or at least trying his best to hide the scholar holding the relic, does eventually get found, tracked down to its location. And the FBI has done its job today.
On the left side, B is ready to pick up that relic, which would mean that he has 2. That is still acceptable for the HRE. That would be 600 gold per minute, but not as ideal as having 3. He finds a couple of villagers up north, though, and this is probably the first time where B is doing a tremendous amount of damage to Mista's eco. Killing a few villagers off is almost mandatory because he is already behind by 13.
Owned blades now coming in. If you know anything about owned blades, it's that it really makes those men-at-arms particularly strong. But now look at this raid coming in. Once again, looking to hit the wood lines of B. And Mista doing a great job as he continues to clean up prelates. A few knights going to be charging out here, trying to do their damage as best they can. But unfortunately not having a lot of luck as the Lancers continue with their higher attacks. And we actually see that relic being brought in. A Wallalol going to be happening at the front of the base here. Conversion. Mista got to be careful. He manages to make it out of that Wallalol in time. And the prelate B lines now for that Regnitz Cathedral.
Look at the population of B, though. Every single villager is getting slaughtered. The prelates are already gone. Every single farmer is down. He's down to 28 population at this point. 23 villagers only, most of those being lumberjacks. There's just nowhere to go here for B. And Mista makes a massive comeback over here, once again showing why Delhi is just such a powerful response to the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah, we continue to see this civilization's win rate improving and improving. And I think as people continue to work them out, they're only going to be even stronger. We've seen numbers like 63, 64% win rate for this civilization. And the Mista's only going to be looking to secure that even further here. A significant lead, both in economy and in military as well. And now we see B is down to 11, 10 villages, 4 military. I mean, you could, looking at this, you would think that B has just started out the game, but it seems like he has indeed called it quits. Match is complete, ladies and gentlemen. The Mista ties up the series at 2-2, and we move on to game number 5 between these Titans.
Very well played by Mista. Even though it started out a little rough, ultimately I think the problem for B was that Minework Palace really didn't do much. So if you think about it, he was able to grab some early upgrades, which sure is helpful, but in exchange he had to invest into a second prelate. And one of the things that was problematic for him is that once Mista started pushing in, those prelates were just sniped by archers, horsemen, or knights, and it was just impossible to keep those alive. Whereas if you have an Archon Chapel, you're guaranteed to have one safe prelate out here. So it's much more difficult to snipe those key economy units out there. Ultimately, Mista was given that one sacred site as well, which gives him a ton of gold income, and he was able to wall in his opponent from 2 directions out the free, which made it very difficult for B to get those relics, and then it was just a snowball from that point on.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Mista did a wonderful job there and really demonstrated his prowess on the Delhi. An incredibly well-played game by him. And yeah, no real surprise that he won. I think it was looking like it was in the bag from about the 10th minute, I think. So yeah, very well played by him. And I don't know about you, Lidakor, but I'm looking forward to the next game in this series because it looks like it might go all the way.
It could very well go all the way. Looking at the home maps real quickly, Mista has already played 2 of his home maps, out of which one of those were lost. He played Boulder Bay, and that was a defeat. We still have King of the Hill as Mista's home map, that will be his last home map. And we have 2 home maps left for B, that being Danube River and Mongolian Heights. Currently, the neutral map was won by Mista, he won Arabia. But B took away a home map from him, so Mista will need to take away a home map from the opponent in order to win this series.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to do it. It's definitely shaping up to be a pretty impressive series so far, and Mista looking to be on the back foot at the moment. So we'll see how he goes in this next game, but B definitely going to be heading in with an advantage, obviously getting his home map and allowing him to have that extra little bit of leverage.
Now, one of the things that we could take a look at is that we have Danube River as a potential option, even Mongolian Heights is an option for B as his home map selections. And Rus are gone for both, Delhi is also gone for Mista, HRE gone for B. So the options are somewhat limited, especially for Danube River.
Yeah, Danube River, I mean, you're thinking Delhi, you're thinking Holy Roman Empire, Rus. I mean, a lot of these civs already been taken out. We've seen the Holy Roman Empire and the Delhi being picked up by both players. They've switched it out. We've seen the Rus mirror. I'm trying to think, what were the civs that we had in the first game? I'm going to have to look through their history here. Give me a second. Because we had the Chinese and the Abbasid.
Yep.
So what civs do we even have left at this point? English and French have both been taken. So we could potentially just see a Delhi on Holy Roman Empire, which is what we saw in the last game. But obviously this is going to be a bit different on Mississippi River. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yep, exactly. We do have HRE still available for Mista. Mongols are still available for both. And you gotta wonder if Mongols are kept for Mongolian Heights or King of the Hill. Likely Mongolian Heights. That would make us play maybe Chinese or HRE for Mista. Probably HRE on Danube River. But what does B go for there? Is he just going Delhi there?
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's so tough, isn't it? With Delhi becoming such a strong civilization, you want to play them on every single map.
Yep. That's the big question. In fact, I've spoken to Beastie just a couple of hours ago, and he said that in many cases, he thinks that the Delhi is a little overrated on hybrid maps, because yeah, sure thing, the efficient ships can shoot, but it's not like you're getting your economy bonus maximized when you're talking about naval combat, right? Or just hybrid map situation. Or on a clean open map, or something like, let's say, Hillandale, you're really able to maximize that sacred site control element, that berry element. Whereas for a hybrid map like Danube, you will just be fishing and you don't have anything special for your fishing unless you can really do a lot of damage with your fishing ships. But players have started just to vote their ships away from the opponent, and in most cases in pro games, you just don't see a window for a deli to do damage with their fishing ships nowadays.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We've gone from a very aggressive meta where players were very active to people now understanding how to counter it. Obviously, using towers very effectively is one of the strategies that people will use. So yeah, it is. It's fallen off somewhat in these sort of hybrid games.
All right, they're still setting up the lobby. I'm sure that they are paying extreme attention now to make sure that both the biome and the seeds are appropriate.
Oh, Lidakor, I got good news. I can smell what appears, what smells to be, what appears to be some sort of sandwich being toasted.
Please don't do that. I'm hungry.
Oh yeah, it's a toaster. It's cheese as well. Oh yeah, there's some good stuff coming out.
We do have the civilizations out there.
Okay, what have we got?
Oh yeah, just a moment. So we have the civilizations flipped. Mista is picking HRA now, and B is picking Delhi. It's likely a Danube River game then.
Yeah. I suspected that would be the case. So yeah. All right, so we're gonna have 3DB on the Delhi. We're gonna have Mista on the Holy Roman Empire. So a little bit of a swing. Maybe we'll see B look to do the strategy, the salami strategy.
It is possible, but let's talk about this civilization matchup, because for a long time, Danube River was a map that people didn't play because they were just so afraid of Delhi. So as much as Rus mirrors was the regular occurrence on Border Bay, you had the Delhi mirrors being a regular occurrence now on Danube River, and now people are starting to deviate more and more from it. Sometimes you see Rus, sometimes you see Chinese or HRE being used here. It is going to be HRE for Mista as a choice. It also means that he won't be able to take HRE for King of the Hill, which is one of the better civilizations for that map, likely saving up his French for that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The French are actually a pretty good map when it comes, a good civ when it comes to King of the Hill. I think that's a really solid choice there. Probably one of the favorites on that map, other than the Delhi, obviously. A very good civ there. But yeah, it leaves not many options for him. But I mean, it's getting to that stage now where we're in the fifth game where it isn't really, there's not that many options, is there, at this point? Yeah, I'm keen to see how this game unfolds. I'm just thinking about the way he plays. I can only imagine that he would do the salami build. I've actually, was it, earlier in the series we saw earlier in the day we saw Lucifron in the Holy Roman Empire mirror going up against his opponent. Oh gosh, is my memory already that bad?
Yeah, it is. It is Kaio.
Yeah, up against Kaio. Yeah, and instead of going for a fishing boom on this map, he just went for a straight fast castle. So he said, yeah, you get up like a minute faster. It's totally worth it. And then you just get the relic faster. So we could potentially see that same thing where he doesn't even go for a fishing boom as the Delhi, which would be outrageous. But it is possible.
It's also possible that the HRE won't be doing that, because if you think about that, you gotta be very respective about the abilities of those Delhi fishing ships. You have the tools to defend against them, but you have to respect the probability and the possibility of those Delhi fishing ships pushing you. So HRE might just say, okay, easiest way to avoid getting pushed by fishing ships is to just completely ignore water, go up to Feudal Age of the Aachen Chapel, Castle Age, pick up relics, and just do regular HRE stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty smart move. We'll see how he looks to play it out, because when you do play the Holy Roman Empire on this map, you're obviously going to want to get into the Imperial Age as well. Fishing boats are really going to help you with that. But at the same time, if you get denied relics, then you've got more things to worry about.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting option over here, because the Delhi can safely fish over here. and even just a couple of fishing ships being added, sort of playing that semi-fast castle approach. So not just completely off from fish, fast castle, but something like a semi-fast castle with fishing ships could also give you a very powerful economy, and it could come down to map presence. So just as much as, this previous game came down to map control and relic control, this could be something very similar here for Delhi. It will be interesting to see if we see the compound of the Defender being utilized to try and control the river or key points of the map. So that's going to be one of the more appealing things to look at. But it looks like we still don't have a game up, so players taking their time to set games up for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess that leaves us with the awkward position of having to find some form of alternate entertainment. I'm going to head over to just chatting and see what we've got. Okay. Interesting. I think somebody's watching like a runway show or something. Have you seen this, Lidakor?
Well, just chatting definitely has its interesting components installed. You think I should bring in a hot tub here, just so that we have some sort of just chatting entertainment while we're waiting?
I think that could really work for you. Oh yeah, okay. I think I don't know if that's a hot tub that we've got going over here. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm just not going to say anything. I am just going to be quiet.
Oh boy. Okay. Luckily for us, it's only 4 minutes and 20 seconds left to go from the countdown. So we'll be jumping into Danube River. And this was chosen to be the last of the day. And so far, it is the one that's delivering the best games. Oh, did we lose Drongo?
No. Sorry, I'm just distracted. I'm just. I'm assessing. What it is people are watching certain people for, and just applying ticks on where I see why people would click. So like I'm looking at a creator here. I see some very nice stairs. I'm going to do a tick on that. Some nice shoes up here. I'm going to tick on that. A man with a beard, that also gets a tick. There's a woman. And she's got like a heater in the background, and it looks to be a very unsafe heater. Those. I'm seeing a lot of OHS issues right here. I'm going to have to further inspect this. Give me a second here, Lidakor.
Oh man, I think that.
This is not good, Lidakor. I'm going to need your help here. Did you want a link? This is quite concerning. I'm going to have to let her know. Excuse me, miss. It's quite dangerous leaving a very large towel upon a rack which is not designed for drying. It may serve as a potential fire hazard.
There's a little pop-up above the chat that says followers only. So if you're not follower, you're just typing that in vain.
Wait, you found her?
No, I'm just watching your stream. I'm just watching your stream, man.
Oh, you're watching my stream. Okay, I see. Okay, I've let her know. I'll just keep following. Oh, she's reading it.
You're gonna have to translate because.
Oh my god! I just got fucking wrecked, bro. Woo!
Oh, what did she say? I need to know. I mean, come on.
She said it's not enough of a fire hazard for me to turn around and show my ass. Oh my lord. EGC TV says, I just turned Aussie back on, and the real tragedy is that I'm not even surprised we're on Just Chatting. Welcome, EGC TV. Good to see you here. We're here for the halftime show, and it seems that you found it.
Aussie loves to upload the tournament games that he casts one by one. I usually upload them as one big chunk so that there's less editing work with them and, people can just watch the entire thing as a whole. And now I'm like, Okay, Aussie's doing everything he can to make me change that habit.
Oh, gosh. Well, to everybody on YouTube, hello. I hope you guys are enjoying the show.
Well, it is definitely most entertaining compared to Roos Mirror on Boulder Bay. Alright, 42 seconds left to go. Mista versus 3DB. We're back on track with Age of Empires 4.
Indeed, indeed. Well, look, I think I'm done with my my good Samaritan, attitude for today. I think it's time for us to get serious here, Lidakor. It's time for us to get down to business. And that means that we don't look out for any more hazards and that we focus completely on what's in front of us. I'm glad to hear that you're on board.
I am. Let's go.
G'day, fellas, and welcome to a casted game. Spawning up in the north side of the map, we have got TheMista, who is playing as the Holy Roman Empire to the opposite side of the map now. We've got another player who has spawned in the color red. Who could it possibly be, Lidakor?
It is indeed B. This is the second time we're using that pun over here. He's using
but it's a different video, so it's fine. It's fine, Lidakor. Those guys in the last video, they didn't see nothing. They don't remember it. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Do go on.
So are we reutilizing jokes from every single video? That actually makes my life very easy because I can just throw in my terrible dad jokes every single video or every single game.
That is so Lidakor of you. Lidakor of you. Lit.
Yeah, it's lit. It's lit for sure.
Terrible.
Alright, we got some scouts moving in here from Mista though. B is likely gonna get that dock up since we have no more animation cancelling, thank goodness. But that villager is in a little bit of danger over here because he's very far away from that town center. So B, despite the fact that, he's got the well-defendable fishing eco with the fishing shears being able to shoot, he decided to move this dock all the way to the corner instead of just placing it close to his town center.
Yeah, pretty interesting strategy that he's going out for. Mista going to be matching that as well. So spotting out the double dock for both of these players, or at least a single dock for both of these players, which turns into a double dock when you add them both up, because 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah, no real differences of the game at this point in time. We do have double scout, or I was going to say double scout opening. We've got a single scout opening now for B. We've got the same thing that looks to be happening for Mista, with the exception of the fact that he is going for the double scout. So opening up with a dock and a double scout, that seems a bit greedy, don't you think?
Indeed, it's a little greedy, but if there is any civilization that has a good enough economy to afford this, that is going to be the HRE. You also have to consider that not only did he add 1 extra scout, he also had to add a prelate, so his villager count is slightly lower. Of course, if you micro that prelate effectively, it's going to pay for its price quite fast, and look at those walls from Mista. He knows the deal. And that is what we talked about before this game. If you go for fishing against the Delhi, you have to respect their abilities of pushing you. And where are the shorefish droplets for Mista, if I may ask?
Oh, that's a yikes, isn't it? Yeah, who knows? Maybe he's used the wrong biome again. Oh, I probably shouldn't say that.
The thing is that, at this point, this is not something that's necessarily worthy of an admin restart, because he has fish to work with, and it's not even a low amount. It's just the fact that the dock is very far away. I wonder if there were some droplets over there, and he wanted to place the dock next to them, and by placing the dock, he accidentally deleted those droplets, because that could explain a lot of things out there.
It's a pretty big dock to get rid of all those droplets, especially the droplets on the other side of the river as well, because it is barren in there. I mean, I see that there's water, but it's looking like it's a bit of a desert, to be honest. There's just absolutely nothing. On one side, we've got 2 fishing droplets, or spigots, I guess you could call it. On the opposite side, we've got 4. And compare that over to his opponent, 3DB, who sits down here safely with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get the point. There's a lot. It's like quite literally about 20. There's a big difference there, but I don't think it's a serious impact. As long as he's got one that's relatively close, that's all that's really going to matter, at least initially. He's going to notice that less and less. And by the same token, we see that B is beginning to transition onto other fish spots as well.
Indeed, as you said, it's all about having just one or two droplets out here, and strictly speaking, if Mista scouts the lack of fish on that area, he could have placed his docks a little closer to the edge of the map. So this is just partly the fact that he plays that dock fast and he didn't really scout the entire area out here. It's not ideal, but it is what he can work with, and now he's coming in with quite a lot of walls, in fact. Not only is he walling both of those crossings, he's also cross-walling the entire land section. Makes me wonder if he just wants to roll out his opponent from the possibility of grabbing those sacred sites, because especially if you're playing the HRE here, especially if you want to go for that fast castle style approach, you don't want to dally messing around with those sacred sites.
Oh, I've had somebody from chat right now. I'm going to give them a big shout out because I think they've identified what the issue is. So Spiranoa has said, it is because the town center is spawning too close to the water. So what is happening is there is apparently a radius around that town center, which is going to prevent the spawning in of fish. And so if you go and have a look on 3DB's side, take a look where his town center spawns, and you can see it spawns a little bit further away from the coastline, but the same thing is represented over there in that you can see the edge of what would be a circle around there. So who knows? Potentially that is what we are seeing right here with the town center spawn being a bit close. And as a result, Mista not having any fish that he can really take.
The interesting element of that is that in most cases, the player spawning on the northern side of the map is usually closer to the water and closer to the edge of the map. So if you look at those generations, mostly the player up north is closer to the water and also more towards the corner, whereas the player on the south is a little bit closer to the southern corner, so not the eastmost corner, where you would expect it, but also a little further away from the water, so that could also play a role. Feudal Age is in here for B, and he's popping off Sanctity as you would expect. Other side, Mista, no Mindwork Palace for him. Instead, he's going to place a perfect Aachen Chapel, empowering all of his workers.
I can confirm. I've done the math. I've got the protractor out, and I've calculated that unfortunately Mista has spawned significantly closer to the water than his opponent. So this is definitely a potential theory that we will look into. I will continue to follow this lead and see where it takes us. But for now, the only lead that I'm really worried about is that that B has got a significant score lead over Mista. I suspect it's probably because he's aged up a little bit earlier than him. But Aachen Chapel now going to be coming down for him. A beautiful Aachen Chapel as well, Lidakor.
And also the text, you have to keep in mind that the free text of the Delhi allows him to start researching technologies, and the way that the score works is that it has multiple components, one of which being the technology, and that is proportional to the amount of technologies you manage to research. And because B's got the free technologies, he already has gotten forestry, he has gotten probably wheelbarrow, okay, he's just now finishing that. So because of that, he's also grabbing a bit of a boost to his technology score, and that's part of the reason why his score is a tiny bit higher, although, as we discussed multiple times, score is not so relevant in such scenarios.
Now, one of the things I also want to talk to you about, obviously, yes, I completely agree. Score is one of those things that you probably shouldn't look at too closely. But typically when it comes into a game like this, you've got the Holy Roman Empire coming up against the Delhi. This is the exact same matchup that we saw in the game before this. So game 4 in the series, we're now into game number 5. But the question, I guess, for me at this point is, what is B actively doing to prevent his opponent from gathering relics? Because Mista is doing an awful lot to deny him from being denied relics. So we can already see he's put down walls across the south side of the map. He's walled in one relic down here. He's got a second relic outside his base. He's going to be able to secure that one. There's also a third relic that's in the middle of the map, probably a little bit up for contention. But there's also another relic down towards the south as well that Mista is going to have to grab eventually. But he is walling up on the outside of that. But, it's going to be very difficult for B going into this to try and stop his enemy from gathering those relics, because that's really what it's all about.
Especially because, while it takes some time to build up that fishing eco for the HRE, one thing that gives you is a very good food economy. And we have to respect the fact that the Castle Age age-up and the Imperial Age age-up as well is very food-heavy. It's much more difficult to acquire the food you need for Castle and Imperial than it is to acquire the gold, especially if the Aachen Chapel is affecting the gold miners. So by having that food eco set up for Mista, he's already able to go up to Castle Age, and he's not going to have a difficult time going into Imperial either. B is going to try and respond by capping the sacred sites, but we have a wolf beating down one of the scholars, the other scholar is being beaten up by a scout. Horseman now coming in here for B though, to discourage that aggression out there, and this could mean B controlling at least one, if not two sacred sites.
Yeah, he's got to try and get these wolves, somehow use his command. Oh my, oh, is he going to do it? He's looking to get the wolves onto these, onto the Scholar. Scholar having a little bit of inspiration there down towards this south side, but it does look like it will eventually go over towards B, capturing up that middle sacred site as well. And you can see the resources really starting to build up now for B. On the other side of the map, Mista almost aged up now. 9 minutes and 8 seconds. Looks like it's going to be his age up time. Comes in, 9:09. Not a bad time right there. Dropping down that initial barracks, and we begin to see those prelates moving out. One in the center, one for the center of the map. Where is that first one being picked up? It looks like he's going for the safe one first. Sacred Site victory now on the way. Write it down, Lidakor. 19 minutes, 24 seconds. Make sure it's in the clock.
And look at that. There is the crosswall coming in here for B, which will make life a lot more difficult for Mista. Because if you think about it, now we could see him walling off the sacred sites, and it would actually be a lot more dangerous than for Mista. Mista trying to stop that walling from happening, but those walls are going up on the right side. And not only is it cutting off Mista from that relic, it's also potentially cutting him off from that sacred site. So this could be a little more complex for Mista than we initially anticipated.
Yeah, I think that he might not have done the math properly down towards the south. Up towards the north, it seems like this walling is going to be a bit of an issue as well. Now, there was a prelate that was moving out in the middle. I can only imagine it lost its life, unfortunately. But now it seems like B going to be going up to the next stage. House of Learning going to be the choice that he makes when it comes to going up. And now we see that forward wall coming out for B as well down towards the south side. So he is looking to secure this up even more. Villagers already out and wolves all over this map, really. There are so many wolves on this map, it seems.
Yeah, there's a lot of wolves out there. And now we are seeing the power of the boosted training from the stables. That's what I wanted to say. I completely forgot the name of the tech out there. But efficient production it is. And that is something that we referred to in the previous game as well. It's just so impactful over here. You can overrun your opponent with a lot of horsemen here and just pick off those prelates, and that's exactly what we're seeing. B is controlling the sacred sites, and of course, Sacred Site victory is still just a distant dream, but it's also giving a tremendous amount of gold income for B here. Almost enough to compensate for a lack of Regnit's Cathedral, and I do believe that B just picked off a monk here on the left side on that relic.
Yeah, he did. The Wallalol did come down. He wasn't really that close to it, so yeah, it wasn't a surprising result, but it was more of a last-ditch effort. The scout did a great job of spotting that one out, but now we continue to see the reinforcements beginning to trickle down towards this edge of this river. Up towards the north, we've got the fishing boats. So doing a little bit of long-distance fishing, but keep in mind, I mean, they are fishing boats. They've got a big gather, a big hull, I guess, to hold in. What do you keep fishing at? I guess they got a lot of nets on their fishing boats. You got 40 food, so you don't really need to worry too much about that long-distance stuff.
Indeed, you do not. And what else you don't have to worry about for B is now having the central area contested because he's got Lancers coming out and he walled off the left side. So suddenly, time is of the essence here for Mista because he's going to have to start working towards decapping one of those sacred sites. I think you said 19 to 15 as the sacred site victory. We've already had 2 minutes pass of that, so only 8 remains. Another Vollo attempt coming in here by Mista. Once again, will just be a little too late. It saves that prelate for the time being, but I would be surprised if this prelate makes it back home.
Yeah, so this is the third relic, I believe, that he's looking to pick up here, or is this only the second? This is only the second relic he's actually looking to pick up, and this is a little bit concerning because B has already begun picking up the relics on his own side. So we've seen the first one that he's picked up, managed to secure it inside the safety of that mosque. There's a second relic up towards the north. Actually, I take that back. It looks like the first relic that he had was actually taken down by a wolf. And he's sending out a second scholar to go out towards that same relic. And I think he's actually going to lose the second scholar. Look at this. Are you watching this?
Yeah, he doesn't have a piety, by the way. He's at 90 HP. On the middle area, we do have some interesting fights happening because we have a Hawk coming out from Mista, and we're seeing a Bagla added by B. Not a ship that you see every day. The consensus worst ship of the entire game. The Bagla making an appearance. Mista looks like he's gonna be able to pick up that second relic, but at this point, you gotta be happy if you're B with 2 relics and the sacred sites under your control.
Yeah, I would definitely be happy with that. I think if you can keep your enemy to having 2 relics, you're going to be pretty happy with that. Obviously, you know, you want to avoid getting or letting them have 3 at all costs, but at the end of the day, you can't control the way the map spawns. And if your enemy's got, you know, a spawn that's good enough for 2 relics, then so be it. But if you can deny that 3rd relic, you're going to do everything in your damn power to do that. And we now see B has picked up that relic down towards the south sacred site. That one has completely gone over. The relic in the middle of the map, I'm going to look for where it spawned. It has been picked up. So B has secured that one as well. And now it looks like B going to be able to have all 3 of those relics inside his mosque. The second relic now finally coming back for Mista. So all 5 relics have now been allocated out to their respective mosques and regnitzes. And now we can enter into the mid-game where we begin to see the way in which they spend these resources.
Now, Mista was thinking about Imperial Age here. He was banking up resources, but now he's changing his mind, going for the barracks play, opening up with quite a lot of spears. He's seeing those lancers come in, and it makes a ton of sense for him to try and get some spears going. B wanted to go with a War Elephant out there, but that's a little too many spearmen to deal with. He's gonna need something to deal with those. Potentially a couple of Tower War Elephants, or just archers, but he's not messing around. There come the elephants.
Yeah, I think this is a really smart move from Mista in this situation. A lot of people would be tempted to go up to Imperial, and I feel like if you did that, you would be playing with fire. You need to neutralize this sacred site. It's imperative. We're now up to barely 4 minutes to go until that next ding dings its dong. And, you know, once the dings start donging, it's already too late. Sacred Site does get neutralized. He is now free to go up to Imperial. We can see that he is beginning to stack up a significant amount of food here, and he's probably going to be heading up to Imperial within the next minute. But a very smart move there from Mista.
Yeah, that was a very smart move out there. Not so great of a fight here for B. I wonder if he's going to start adding demolition ships to try and deal with those infantry. He pulled back a Bugla. Here come the first 2 Tower Elephants, though, and you see that B is going to wall up to make sure the counterattack is not going to be a possibility. On the other side, looks like a fishing boat is trying to push that hawk. That was a very, very underwhelming fight over there for B.
Yeah, he tried. He tried, the little guy.
Oh, there come the 2 elephants, though, and you gotta be careful here if you're Mista, because while the spearmen can swarm the elephants, those Tower War elephants do a ton of damage against light infantry.
Yeah, they're looking to do pretty decently along this shoreline. The main thing he's got to be worried about, I mean, those fishing boats, it feels like they do a lot of damage, but really, they're basically like archers. You don't need to be that worried about them. But they shoot once every 1.75 seconds. It's not that bad. Actually, now that I think about it, it's basically identical to an archer.
Yep, exactly. Spearman number is still steadily increasing for Mista. Once again, he delays his Imperial Age a tiny bit, especially on the gold department. He's rather low. He's not really mining, and he only has 2 relics in the Regnitz Cathedral, and this actually buys a lot of time for the elephants to appear on the battlefield. And now that you have 4 Tower Elephants, you start to feel that urgency that has to kick in here for Mista soon, because, oh boy, elephants, especially when you have them in large numbers and being healed, this could be troublesome. Springles will be the answer, but they're not the old Springles that used to be so good against elephants anymore.
Yeah, I don't like this play at all. Mista was able to go up to the Imperial Age. He had a very clear window, but now he's going to have a lot of trouble because B is starting to build up a significant mass of these Tower War elephants, and it feels like the only unit that he's going to be able to make to be able to counter this is the Knight, and the Knight's just not going to do very well at all, and unless it's got those elite upgrades. These War elephants, keep in mind, they don't get Imperial upgrades. They don't get elite upgrades. These guys are basically Imperial units already, so Mista going to be very, very careful right here.
Indeed. Luckily for him, the Imperial Age upgrade that the elephants can get is the crossbows upgrade on them, so their armor-piercing power is not so great right now, but if you start mixing in some of your own lancers, it could be enough, and you see that those elephants were hiding in the forest. Mista is unleashing them right now, but I'm not sure if this many spearmen is enough to deal with this many elephants, microing all the way back to the shoreline.
And that's exactly it. He's just going to micro these back to the shoreline. This is not a fight that you need to take right now, Mista. This is a big mistake that is happening. You've got scholars here on the back line. Honestly, if I'm you, wall up, go to Imperial, get some knights out, get bombards out. You're going to be absolutely fine, but you're just taking fights right now that you do not need to be taking. All of these elephants getting healed up by the scholars out here as well, and you're just losing complete armies that you just really don't need to be doing.
Not a single elephant was taken down. There was one at the bottom that was down to 42 HP that could have been killed. But ultimately, not a single elephant went down. I think Mista lost his entire army and he killed 1 or 2 lancers. And as you said, now the scholars can just heal up all of those elephants. And things are just piling up and they are getting worse and worse for Mista because once again, B can capture that sacred site. And he has had that sacred site in the bottom for a long time. And if you look at the gold income per minute, that has been far better for B for a long, long time. And that is going to have an impact on this game. Mista still in Castle Age, and now that Siege Workshop could be exposed to the elephants.
We are witnessing the march of the elephants right now. 3DB beginning this march, heading in towards his enemy's base. A single Hulk looks to stand here. A couple of fishing boats going to be trying to body block their way.
Demo.
Not having a lot of luck as both of those sacred sites now getting captured. And
the
3DB
demo.
looking.
Oh, the demo is coming in.
A demo. And it sits there. And it waits. And it holds. And it holds. Holds.
Hold.
Hold.
Now the elephants have to retreat though because of the spears. This might be intentional. This might be intentional, forcing the elephants back.
We see that the demo ship's actually getting close to getting knocked out. It does indeed. A single Tower War elephant focuses it down. But now these spears are going to be doing a decent job of focusing down the war elephants. It looks like Mista trying his best to hold on here. He's having a bit of a tough time, though. These Tower War elephants beginning to run rampage through his base. He's looking like a tiny town in Thailand right now with the amount of elephants that are rampaging through here.
I think he just wanted to make those elephants retreat and then blow them up with the demos, but might have been a bit of an overthinking over there, because ultimately, the demos were taken down. Once again, the elephants are just not getting killed here. He's disengaging when the elephants are down to like 100 HP, because those are getting killed, and now he's up to Imperial, but what for? Is this probably the worst time to go up? And the answer is there.
Yeah, the answer is definitely yes. He had a window in that early game to go up. He chose not to take it. He chose to reinforce. He chose to take these incredibly curious fights along the shoreline, and he gets punished completely for it. Good game going over to B. He played incredibly well. Delhi Sultanate, once again demonstrating its strength on these hybrid maps.
And it wasn't just about the fishing eco. It wasn't even a factor that your fishing ships can shoot. It was the fact that you have the free technologies, you have the sacred sites under your control. Even just having one sacred site is a tremendous amount of gold. And then the ability to just flood the map with horsemen. B was so effective when it comes to picking off those prelates. So not only is the fact that he's securing free relics for himself, he also managed to delay his opponent picking up his. So while, of course, Mista was able to secure 2 relics for Ragnitz Cathedral, it was, I think, minute 14, 15 or so when the second relic was delivered. So until then, he was only operating with 1 relic, which also delayed that Imperial Age, the Imperial Age that Mista needed to get to before he started taking fights against those elephants.
Yeah, and speaking of taking fights against those elephants, I'm trying to draw out some lines here on this final screen. It looks like about 55 population, military population, down to about 22 population. So losing about 33, 34 units in that battle. It doesn't even look like B actually went down. If we check the battle at the time, he barely loses a unit. So incredibly well played by him. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to the next game because we are on match point, and B could potentially be could be potentially heading to Berlin if he wins that next game. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I encourage you, check out that one. It's going to be coming up in your pipeline. And more importantly, make sure you check out Lidakor. I'll leave a link in the description. Thanks for joining me, Lidakor. Let's get to that next game.
And that game has to be on the last remaining home map of Mista. That is King of the Hill, not a map that you see very commonly, so you would expect Mista to have a good game plan for that. But this is the tough one, because we've expected this one to be a potentially close set after seeing the first 2 or 3 games, but I never thought that we would see a situation where B is in match point against Mista, because, yeah, I mean, B has had a very good run in recent smaller events and stuff like that, that he has been emerging as a factor, but I think every single person that looked at the brackets when they were released would have said that this is Mista's bracket. I for sure said this. I for sure said that, okay, this should be 98% Mista qualifying. And even if I didn't have Mista on my list, I probably would have said someone like Zerton or... I think Zerton was probably my second biggest name out there that could have actually stopped him. In fact, I remember saying that he was up against Nevix at the beginning, and I said that Nevix might actually be the person that upsets him, and if he takes him down, then I think he has a relatively easy path towards the Deciders, and now B comes in the Deciders. B only dropping one game in the previous rounds, has played very clean, and now he's playing probably the best games that he has played in this entire tournament so far.
Yeah, he's playing really well. I think it all started with that Chinese game. He's
Yep.
just been looking incredible since that. It was an amazing game. He executed incredibly well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings to this next game as I continue to chow down on my breakfast burrito.
Oh shoot, it's breakfast time for you. I totally forgot about that. What time is it? It's like 6 a.m.?
You're close. It's 8 a.m. I just bit my tongue trying to get that out to you. I'll make sure I be a bit more cautious in the future. Yeah, 11 a.m. right now. So, yes, the fiance's come upstairs. She's brought up a coffee, a breakfast burrito. I think I'm on my third coffee for this stream. How long have we been streaming right now? I've been streaming for 10 hours and 13 minutes.
Oh yeah, because you started a lot earlier. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
I didn't start earlier because I just woke up at 9 a.m. and I'm like, well, not 9 a.m. because the stream started 9 a.m. So it's like woke up at like 7:30 or 8 a.m. And I was like, okay, starting off the day with N4C, and I had a terrible sleep yesterday because my neighbor was just, I don't know what my neighbor was doing, but it was some kind of badass shooter game because my entire apartment was shaking from the shooting. It's like, my neighbor has to have a crazy sound system out there. I was actually thinking about getting some very, very cheesy songs going on loudspeakers and just turning them against the wall next night. So I shall have my revenge.
I've got the songs for you if you're looking to get some songs. My first recommendation is, you put the boom boom into my heart. You know that one?
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a great one. Just put that one on repeat. You'll love that.
All right, looks like Mista is taking a short break himself because he is still shown to be in-game on the other side. B is online. This means that B has left the game, whereas Mista did not. And to me, that tells one thing. This is one of those scenarios where Mista is probably standing up after this game and says, okay, I gotta clean my mind. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did that.
Yeah, he's just going to need it after that game. That was a very tough game. A lot of curious decisions went in there. I definitely don't think he was playing his best. He took fights he didn't need to, made decisions he shouldn't have, and it cost him. So hopefully he can clean his the way he's thinking up, and he can pull his act together in for this couple last games.
There is a very interesting story about Mista, and that actually dates back to Genesis. I think we were casting his sets there as well. And there was an interview. I'm not sure if you were part of that interview or not, because I don't remember which event it was. But one time, Mista said, I think it might have been the Genesis interview. I'm not sure if we interviewed the Mista as the loser, like he was the second place, so he lost the finals. Not sure if we interviewed him after, but I remember him specifically saying after a tournament that he's having trouble with very long sets because, unlike many other competitive players, he's got a full-time job. He's a full-time farmer, which is, I think, a very, very cool thing, and it's one of the nice trivia things about him. But he's not a person that's accustomed to sets being 4, 5, 6 hour long, and he said that a best of 7 is just very, very physically exhausting and draining for him. And attrition is something that has a bigger impact on him than some other players in the scene. So I was wondering how long this set was, but it's starting to become a very lengthy one. So attrition is starting to kick in here. I'm not sure about B, but since B's got a fairly large competitive background, I would think that B is probably in a better position when it comes to attrition than Mista is.
Sorry, I was just finishing my breakfast burrito. It seems to have been all wrapped up now. But I think you're definitely right. Sorry, go on, yeah?
Did you just drop a burrito or wrapped up joke?
Yes, I did.
I mean, it was built into the sentence so well that I couldn't decide if this was a pun intended or this was just completely unintentional and your brain is just melting down.
No. Those are the best puns, the ones that you don't know whether they are intentional or not, because then you have to tell people pun intended. I mean, I remember that conversation as well. Mista said, "I'm having difficulty with the long sets." I think what was it, 4-2 against the Viper? He went.
Yep.
It was a very long set. I think that was a long day, if I remember correctly, as well, because we had the games beforehand, and they seemed to go for
Yeah.
quite a while. And I think he was the first up to play as well. He got a bit of a break, but obviously, it was difficult for him. So I mean, you compare that over to people like the Viper, who've just been, he was gaming competitively before he could walk. That guy. So yeah, it's in his blood.
And last week we had a Vortex fighting off Mista in the deciders, and that actually had a 4-2 result. And it was a 4-4, or excuse me, 2-2 between Vortex and Mista after 4 games. And then you had Vortex taking a game there that was a Hillandale game last week that made it 3-2, and then Mista wasn't able to recover and they just lost 4-2. So we could actually have a very similar setup over here. It was 2-2. B takes a game, moves on to match point. We'll have to see if Mista is able to break away with his own home map. No matter what, the final game, if we have Mista winning, will be on the home map of B, and that's something that you will also have to consider and respect, and that very likely could end up being Mongol mirrors.
That is a great point. Yeah, saving the Mongols for the last moment. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, if we take a look at the maps that have already been chosen now, that final map that B is going to have access to is going to be Mongolian Heights. So I think it would be very appropriate to see a Mongol mirror on Mongolian Heights as the final game.
Yeah,
Save the best for last.
that would be fun, and that's actually one of the more interesting questions here. If you're Mista, you're down 1 game. This is your tournament life on the line. It's your ticket to Berlin on the line. Or are you actually saving up Mongols for Mongolian Heights? I would think yes, because I think he's feeling confident with the French potentially being the pick on King of the Hill. But to how big of an extent are you still saving civilization here when really everything is on the line in this game?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Do you save that best in slot till last? I think you probably, you probably got to just throw it out here, don't you? But Mongols on this map, I don't know how I feel about Mongols on this map. I mean, Mongols on any map are obviously going to be good, but I feel like France is particularly good. And he's going to know going into Mongolian Heights that he needs to. I mean, you can't play France on Mongolian Heights. It's just not possible. You bring out Mongols here, you lose. That's just it. I mean, even if you win the next game, you're just going to lose if he brings out Mongols on Mongolian Heights. There's no way France can contest the Mongols. They single-handedly take the fishing economy. They deny you completely from your own fishing economy. They open up with spears. They've got enough spears that they can defend your cavalry. I don't think there's anything you can do.
Yeah, I think at this point, I have to agree.
Push.
I have to agree. Like, your best civilization is the Mongols, but for Mista, he can't just pick his best civilization right now for 2 reasons. As you said, he's probably fine with the French over here, but the bigger thing is that you can't just leave French for the last game. What would be his other alternative here? Because French, Mongols, and what else is still there for him? He used up English, HRE, Abbasid, Rus, Delhi. So what is still left there? Starting to have a tough time remembering civilizations. Did he use English? Yes, he did. Okay, what civ are we missing? We definitely lost Drongo for a brief moment.
Sorry. I just got a DM and I think it's like a scam. So I'm just gonna.
Yeah, that's very possible. What civ are we missing? I'm actually losing my mind on this. I'm trying to figure out which is the 8th civilization, and it just doesn't pop into my mind. We have French, Mongol still available for Mista. English, HRE, Abbasid, Rus, and Delhi were used. What am I missing? Oh, Chinese. Chinese I'm missing.
Chinese, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it's this pseudo-civilization of Age of Empires 4. It's like, you have to think 5 minutes to think what civilization you're missing simply because it never gets used, although we have seen that being utilized today already. It's likely gonna be French and Mongols here for him then, and he has to save Mongols because he can't just match up French against the Mongols in game number 7.
Yeah, it's just not possible. I don't think there's any way that he can do it. All right, I think I might just take a short break here while we wait for this to happen. We can see Mista sitting in the lobby at the moment.
Yep, they're just not picking civs, so we'll have a countdown. I will actually let you know the civs here in a second if you have a couple more seconds to wait, because I do want to break take a break myself for a minute or so. Civilizations are in, and what on the earth? This is a Mongol's mirror.
Really?
Now I'm gonna
On King
double
of the
check.
Hill?
Like at this point, I need to check if he missed the game or something, because Mongol's mirror and the last home map of Mista is King of the Hill, and that's a big surprise out here. Hang on, I'm a little shocked, but no, we didn't miss anything. This is King of the Hill, Mista's last home map, and we're gonna have a Mongol mirror.
Weird.
Oh, that's interesting. That actually leaves Chinese or French for Mongolian heights, and that could very well be Chinese now that Mongols aren't there for the opponent. And B would have his English there. B would probably use English over Abbasids on Mongolian heights, so could it be Chinese versus English in the last game if Mista wins this Mongol mirror?
That'd be kind of funny, wouldn't it? Literally the last possible civilizations coming out. But
oh, this is such a complex mind game because we talked about this. If either of these players, especially Mista, picks Mongols here, even if he wins, he's risking getting matched up against Mongols in the final game. But it seems like both players decided to pick their own Mongols here, which leaves a ton of very appealing and interesting combinations available for game number 7.
Are we going to see Chinese come out in the last game? Could you imagine that? Players forced to play civilizations that just aren't that good.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, the other side, B would have to choose between Abbasids and English, and to me that's a little more English-sided for Mongolian heights. And what would Mista do? Would he just pop out his French over there? I don't necessarily like French over the English on that map, although you would have the Feudal Age Hawks, but I still think that, as weird as it sounds like, on a map like Mongolian Heights, I might like the Chinese over the French against the English.
English feel pretty solid at the moment.
Yeah, I think no matter what, I think Mista has to acknowledge that no matter what, going into game number 7, his opponent is likely going to have a small civilization advantage, but Mista needs to take it one game at a time. So first step is winning a Mongols mirror here. And it's not going to make life easy for him that this is a mirror, because if he had Mongols and the opponent had, let's say, English or over here, then it would have been much easier to win this game and just push it into game number 7. Now that it's a mirror, it's even Steven on the civilizations. So it's going to be difficult for Mista to pull off a victory over here. Although I think Mista is the single best Mongols player in the world. Like, his build orders are extremely clean, and I struggle to see. Like, I really can't find another player that has as clean builds with Mongols as Mista does. So this is really his go-to civilization.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I guess it definitely seems like a pretty good win. To be honest, I think this is probably the best he could have hoped for. Is to get this, is to get a Mongol mirror on this map, because then that enables him to keep the French for the. Yeah, it's all making sense.
All right, we got 5 minutes to go, but I think both of us need to take at least a minute break, so we'll be back very soon with game number 6. Make or break right now for Mista, because B's at match point, and he could be the surprise participant of the N4C in Berlin if he wins this game.
Yeah, it definitely could be. All right, Lidakor, you take your break. I'm going to take mine. I'm going to put on some music for these bad boys so they know exactly what's going on. All right, what song? Are you there, Lidakor?
I am.
Oh,
Don't
that's
you
good. That's good.
worry. I'm not going to miss the 6th game of the set, that's for sure. I just time my break in a way that we have full energy to jump into game number 6 because I have the feeling that we're going to have a very good game ahead of us.
I got a feeling that we are as well. I'm incredibly excited about this because it's about to get real. G'day, fellas, and welcome to a casted game. Spawning in on the north side of the map, playing the Mongols, we have got TheMista. On the opposite side of the map, we've currently got no sound, but don't worry, I'll get you some sound very shortly. Who have we got spawning in here?
We got the B coming in with the Mongols as well, and wait a minute, that has to be... There's no way, right? There's no way. Look at the forests. Look at the forests for B. Where should he place that town center at? He started on the left side, and one of the forests was in the corner, so he couldn't see it, but there was like no second backup forest. Oh my goodness. You gotta wonder if this is an admin restart, because there is a problem here. I don't think that this map spawned bugged. It's a big clearing, but what you're looking for when you have your starting positions is 2 small forests. And if you look at the corner, there is a small forest that's different from the big forest in the corner, and the other one is over there, to the north of it. So you have both of your starting forests. It's just a matter of the fact that B started moving the wrong way. Oh no. He even sees the starting forest, but he wanted something else.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, I mean, it's a little bit greedy there. I think he was probably looking for a forest plus a gold mine, didn't really find it, and subsequently decided to walk 1,000 miles. You know, I think they wrote a song about that. I think it was called "I Will Walk 1,000 Miles." I think that was the name of the song. At least that was the lyrics to the song. At least. I'm curious how this game is going to unfold, though, because already we've seen a little bit of shenanigans right now. I mean, he kind of, it was a risky play right there from B, and you know we've talked about this multiple times. We saw this earlier in the game with Mista going for a bit of a risky play, and it not coming in, but yeah, I mean, now we see both players looking to scout each other out, and Mista going to be looking to pick up some sheep over on his opponent's side of the map. He's got to be very careful here. You can see him heading towards that town center. He is not going to skip a beat. He is on match point right now. This is, I mean, if he loses this game, that's it. He's not heading to Berlin.
Yeah, and as we discussed at the beginning of the set, the pressure is on him to make it to Berlin, because he was easily regarded as the top 8 player, but he has been handed a half a victory over here already for him, because that wasn't just a terrible start for B, that was an absolutely disastrous start, and the only song I can think about that's related to this move is just the coffin song, really. Because by moving that town center for so long, he's also giving up villagers, so he's already behind 3 villagers in a mirror. And we've talked about how Mista is very effective with his Mongol builds. You see, he already has a pasture. This is just such a signature Mista style play. That very flexible, fast castle that Mista loves to play is so effective, especially when your opponent is behind like this. I'll have to dig up my notes on the previous set that was played by Mista. And yeah, there was a French versus Mongols match between Vortex and Mista last week in the qualifiers. And Mista had a super clean Mongols build. It was planned to be a fast castle, but the moment he realized that his opponent is going to be a little more aggressive in feudal age, he started adding army. The flexibility at which Mista used his Mongols is something I've never seen before. So this is an exceptionally good situation for Mista to be in.
Yeah, and speaking of exceptionally good, we've got the Khan, which is exceptionally good at murdering sheep. 3 sheep so far this game have gone down to Khan arrows. Mista losing 2 of them, B losing 1 of them. And I really feel like B is punishing Mista for doing this. And I think he's doing the right thing, because Mista didn't have to do this. Mista came in close to the town center. He took out that first sheep, and as a result, it forced, well, not forced him, but it meant that he was relatively close towards B. And then B has subsequently just gone and continues right now to take out more sheep, as you see the numbers dwindling down for Mista, as he's only got 3 sheep following him. He used to have a herd of 6, but now he has but a small flock of 3.
Yeah, Mista had to make a decision. He brings back the sheep but gives up on vision, or he's going to just stay there, risk his sheep. On the opposing side, B added a second scout, so he could just collect sheep with that and use the Khan to fight. And you see that at least as a result...
Khan! It was close. It was close, Lidakor. That was almost a dead Khan. Yeah, that was almost a dead Khan.
Tower also being built over here by Mista will be there just in time for the spears to arrive. And he spotted the barracks, that's what I wanted to say, just before that arrow volley came out from the town center. He saw the barracks with that Khan, so he knows the spearmen are coming, and he's going to react appropriately, dropping that tower.
Yeah, speaking of acting appropriately, that Khan going to continue trying to kite that spear. Only a single spear comes out, and you might be wondering why the heck there's a single spear. It's because the distance that he had to travel with that barracks was so damn long. It's basically half the map that he's had to go. But Mista now going to be aging up to the feudal age. B just dropping his landmark down right now. You can see the distance between, or not the distance, but just how far behind he is.
And let's keep in mind that Mista still has his Khan around, and that gold mine for B is very much exposed. It's a great big gold mine, but it's very much exposed because his small gold mines are in the middle of nowhere. Now, Mista is also taking a big gold mine at the bottom of the hill here, which is very common for Mongols to place their town centers in a way to have access to the big gold mine. And look what Mista is doing. He's moving away from the gold. This is going to be full feudal age pressure. He's realizing that there is blood in the water, and there is a window to finish this game in the next few minutes if he's able to pressure this angle.
Yeah, stable going to get dropped down here as well. You can see the double archer production going to be coming out. Already got the pasture here as well. So if you're looking for lambs, you've come to the right place.
The villager. Mista doesn't get the will.
Village. I don't know what you're looking at, Mista. Where was Mista getting the vills?
He was about to pick up the villager at the town center of B. You shouldn't be behind because we joined in at the same time.
Oh, okay.
There was a villager that made it back just with 2 HP. I was very close.
That's a bit strange. But yeah, I didn't see it. 3DB now getting up to the next stage. A lot of villagers in on... or sitting idly by the deer stones for quite some time. An outpost is going to be going up on top of this gold mine. He wants to keep this nice and safe. But now we see the archers already beginning to make their ways in, and it looks like it might be too little too late as the first villager of the game is going to be going down. At least I think that's the first villager, Lidakor. Second villager might potentially go down, but the archer will have to fall back as that outpost does get up very, very fortunately for Mista, or for B rather.
Indeed, that tower does go up, but this also means that Mista could drop a tower behind that gold mine in a way that the other tower can't shoot it, and there is also a couple of horsemen coming out for Mista. No feudal age upgrade just yet, but he's amping up the pressure, and as we discussed, B is just behind in everything that he does, and his Ovu is also so far away that it takes forever for him to place production buildings there, so he's currently only on a barracks, and he's facing an increasing amount of archers and horsemen.
Yeah, it's essentially like he was AFK at the start of the game for 40 seconds. Like, if you were to just take his town center and then just delete it for 40 seconds and then, oh, there you go, there, you can have your town center at 40 seconds. That's essentially what's happened. So despite, moving it up to a little bit of a more advantageous spot, speaking of advantageous, it looks like a villager going to get picked off on the front line. B, unfortunately, going to be losing a couple there, but the Khan does get taken down for the Mista. A very unfortunate event for him. It's going to have to respawn at the town center. Jeez, you'd hate for that to happen, wouldn't you?
And at the same time, he's trying to burn down that Ovu, so he's realizing that if Mista is defending his gold, there is going to be a window to push that Ovu. And I loved how Mista utilized his speed arrow. He popped it before he started moving in, so he was aware that he needs to close the distance between the archers and the villagers before B spots it. So he's just going to pop it before he moves in, and then he dives in, kills a villager, and then using the buff of that speed arrow, he will disengage. Unlucky for him that the Khan went down, but guess what? Now, archers and horsemen, how do you defend your Ovu against these with only spearmen?
It's a really difficult position because not only does your enemy have an archery range and a stable on their own Uvu, but you've got absolutely nothing on yours. I mean, with the exception of a barracks, but that's probably not what you want to be making in this position. Ideally, you'd love to be going for full cavalry, but now B sitting here with 540 stone in the bank. He's not going to be able to do anything with this at the moment, and now we see that arrow getting popped off by the Khan, the only Khan that remains alive, at least at the moment. Archer's still trying their best to take out the spearmen. He's not doing enough micro with those bad boys. Now going to be able to get out on the field and look to pick off some of these spears, having a pretty good job of it as well as as only 2 spears remain. Actually, I take that back. It's 4 spears that remain because 2 more came out from that barracks. He's just continuing to give them the runaround. The good old-fashioned GUA runaround happening right there. But now a screen going to be drawn once again. And more reinforcing spears, so who knows, maybe these spears, there was actually something to them. And the archer mass continues to dwindle. B tries his best to hold on, despite being down by another 200 points at this point.
It is very difficult for Mista to reinforce this battle with more archers, so as he started losing them, it suddenly became very difficult to just add more. Whereas for B, he was able to pop out those spearmen very consistently. But look at what Mista is doing, and this is what I was referring to when I said flexibility. He's really in control of this civilization like no one else on this planet. He's realizing that, okay, I've done enough damage with my army. He stops making army. In just a split second, he's getting close to that castle age, and B is nowhere close.
Yeah, in addition to that, he's got so many pastures that are just hanging out here. He's dropping down a 5th one right now, so he is ahead of the game when it comes to this pasture production. But at the same time, speaking ahead of the game, down towards the Uvu, we've got some more horsemen doing what they do best, sieging.
And this doesn't let B move up, and that's the nice thing here for Mista. His opponent's army is rather slow-moving, with mostly those spearmen being the main body of it. So you just gotta force the fights close to that Ovu out there. A little bit of a mismicro there by Mista, losing some of the archers over here, but I don't think that he has to be worried about this one at all, because the point here is just to delay as he's ready to go into Castle Age.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And as you mentioned, B nowhere near aging up at the moment. He has barely the resources of halfway to age up. It looks like a Khan going to be limping away. What's going on with that Khan? You got to. I think that Khan may have lost a leg there, unfortunately, but he did limp away. Was taken out. B going to be losing his Khan as well. So both players, Khans dropping down, and now we see Mista heading into the Castle Age. Wheelbarrow also getting completed here for B. It's a curious decision to go for Wheelbarrow when you're this far behind, but I guess you got to start throwing anything at the wall and hoping something sticks.
And there is another villager that gets picked off here. B tried to repair that Ovu, and he will be successful, but it comes at a sacrifice. And now he lost another villager. 7 villager advantage for Mista, and it is going to be a considerable lead going into Castle as well. That, of course, means Lancers. The only good news for B is that Mista doesn't have a lot of stone, so he can't really pop out a ton of Lancers with double training right at the beginning.
Yeah, this is very, very interesting at this point. So we'll take a look over at Mista's base. He has got his step redoubt all the way up now. 12 villagers on this bad boy, about to finish it. And we are going to be seeing the flood begin. We're going to have crossbows. We're going to have men-at-arms. You're going to have... actually, probably won't have crossbows because there's no armored units for your enemy. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. You're going to have lancers coming out as well. And then B's going to be trying to defend that, but you can see he's only sitting on 888. Extra lucky. Food now managing to climb up towards that 978 mark, but slowly and steadily getting there. He's really going to need to evaluate the situation. And he's going to have to do it very quickly. Look how many pastures he's got up now as well. 7 pastures. Jeez, he's having a tough time.
The problem is that his gold mine is about to be cut off, and oftentimes you see that the Mongol players could lose a game despite getting to Castle Age early if they lose access to the gold mine, because everything that they want to make in Castle, knights, as you said, the men-at-arms, potentially even crossbowmen, they are gold dependent. So if your opponent can push your gold mine before you can get those out, you could be in trouble. And this could exactly be the scenario here. You already see the tower being dropped by Mista up front to expand the YAM network. And with the first couple of men-at-arms coming in here, you are even in the risk of potentially getting that step redoubt denied.
I fear you may be correct. Not enough villagers coming forward to do this. He's got 12 villagers on it, but he's going to need to go up really quickly. Mista identifies this, and now he begins to come in. We may have seen a significant mistake unfolding at the front of the base, and not just that town center move that took 40 seconds, but we have got a complete deny of this landmark. It's a good game. Ladies and gentlemen, we are heading to game number 7. At least it seems to be the only possible outcome. I can't imagine that there is any way he holds on from this position.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, he has to pull everything, and it's gonna come down to the fact that he was already behind in villagers, so of course, he's gonna get this step redoubt up. Like, there is no doubt about that. The question is, how many villagers will he have when that step redoubt is finished? It is actually turning into a step redoubt.
Why is that?
You don't know the doubt reference.
Redound. I'm not even faking that. That one went over my head. That was a whoosh. I'm like, what do you mean it's a step redoubt? Of course it's a... What are you doubting about this step redoubt? It looks like the step redoubt does manage to get up, so...
Yeah, congratulations. Welcome to Castle Age, I guess.
Yes, yes. I'll take the tax of 15 villages. Enjoy your stay.
And there's
33
gonna be 5
villages
more
for
in that tower. So not only are you taking
Yeah.
down that like dozen of villagers around that separate out, you're also going to take down 5 more inside that tower. And even the Ovo is depleted for B, so it's like everything going wrong that could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, it's not pretty right now. Mista sitting on 49 villages, B sitting on 33. So look, even if he somehow manages to hold on, he's going to be behind when it comes to his economy. As I mentioned earlier, we see a huge amount of pastures coming out for him. So it's important to remember that if you're in the lead, it's absolutely fine for you to be dropping down pastures. But if you're behind, you don't want to be dropping down pastures because you need to try and get ahead. And throwing down pastures is not going to help you get ahead. It's basically like throwing down farms. And now we hear the very first Springald being shot out of the game. It looks like Mista dropping down a Springald emplacement in that, and he is just cleaning up unit after unit. We see the Khan once again going to be falling back on towards the town center. These armored units, they've got their +1 armor. Do we see improved siege engineering coming in? Not yet, it seems. But no blacksmith getting dropped down just yet. And it looks like good game is going to get called. Mista takes it through to game number 7, and we are going to a decider.
Probably the costliest defeat here for B, because going into this one as a Mongol's Mirror, it's sort of an even chance for both. But as you said, just by having that start, he put himself into a very, very deep hole. And basically, Mista could have an advantage that he could have just dreamed of before this game. Having Frey Villager's advantage consistently in a Mongol's Mirror is an absolute dream, and that's exactly the dream that Mista was living. Not a single time in this game had Mista have lower villagers or lower overall population than the opponent. That's how impactful that first Frey Villagers was.
It's absolutely insane to see how far he is behind. It's quite literally like the game started and he walked away for 40 seconds. There's just been an insane lead that's been happening the entire game, and it just continues to build. You can see he loses a couple of villages. He doesn't necessarily go idle. I think he's training villagers the entire time. It's just, he got to the castle age a little bit later, a little bit more delayed, 40 seconds later than his opponent, and he really got paid. He really got punished for it.
And indeed, one of the other factors is that not only did he venture very far out, it also meant that he wasn't able to secure his ultimate goal, which was a good gold mine. He had a fairly exposed big gold mine, and by moving away, he also moved very far away from that Ovu, so he wasn't able to place pastures in the influence radius of the Ovu, unlike Mista, and the entire thing just snowballed upon him here. And yeah, if we have Mista winning this set in game number 7, we'll be looking back at this game as the potential major cause for B losing it. So, like, as impactful as game number 2 was with the Chinese Tower Rush and how big of a motivation that gave to B and how important it was to just even things out there in that situation, this game could have very similar effect just for Mista.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting decision making there from B. It was his decision to move away from that smaller wood patch, and it definitely cost him the game there. So unfortunate stuff from him. But I hope you guys are looking forward to game number 7 on YouTube. It'll be the next one coming up. More importantly, make sure you check out Lidakor. Plenty of AoE4 content over there. Let's get into it, Lidakor. I'm looking forward to it.
And we're heading to Mongolian Heights. Mista has been unsuccessful taking away a home map from the opponent yet. So far, B has won both of his home maps. Which means that Mista's gonna have to make that break in this last 7th game, and his civilization isn't necessarily ideal for this one. He's got French and Chinese to choose from, as opposed to English or Abbasids. I think we can fairly be certain about the fact that this is gonna be an English pick for B. Mista, I'm not so certain about. My gut tells me it's gonna be French. My heart tells me it should be Chinese.
So you've got French Chinese on Mista, and you've got Abbasid English on B. Yeah, I already see. So a B definitely going to go for English here, you would assume.
Yep.
It seems like the appropriate choice. So we're going to write that one down. This is game number 7. Keep that in mind. The winner of this game goes through to Berlin. It has all been for this moment right here. Mista, on the other hand, he's got French and China. Now, obviously, French going to do incredibly well in the event that there's any water battles. But against the English, I mean, you're not going to be looking for those water battles. Actually, maybe it could work. What if you did? Okay, think about this. Okay, what if you did? Because this is Mongolian Heights. So if you went for French fast dock into 8 Ville on their landmark, and then into an immediate Hulk. That way you can defend your fish. Like, what's the range on a Hulk?
6, I think.
So they're going to get outranged just slightly.
Yeah, it looks like we have the civilizations in, so at least we know that it's not going to be Chinese. French versus English, it's a bit of a
Yeah.
battle of gentlemen because this is probably the most common civilization matchup in the entire competitive scene. It really feels like every single set that we cast has a French versus English matchup at one map or another.
Yeah, and in fact, some sets, the best sets that there are, actually have 2 English versus French games.
Are those the best sets though? Because, to a certain extent, French versus English is a little repetitive, but one thing is sure, when you take a look at this matchup, you don't associate that very often with a map like Mongolian Heights.
Yeah, I was expecting that we'd see this matchup on King of the Hill. I didn't expect that we were going to be seeing it on this map. I thought we were going to see the Mongol Mirror over on that map, but yeah, we are heading into it, ladies and gentlemen. Your final game for this evening. Earlier this evening, somebody asked me, how many games are you casting tonight, Drongo? And I said, potentially 21. Now, we didn't quite reach the 21 threshold. The first game, or the first series, shorter than that, than the 7 quoted. Second series, also shorter than that, but the third series has gone the distance. This is it. This is the final game right here in front of you. We're doing it
Indeed,
live.
it's the final chance to qualify for N4C. We already have 7 out of the 8 people on the list. It is now or never for either of these players. The final ticket to Berlin is up for grabs in this one. And really, this is the last game that we're going to see from N4C before the actual main event in Berlin. So this better be a good one. So far, this set has delivered, and it really justifies it being the last set of the day. Because oftentimes, there is no secret. The last set is usually the one that people expect to be the best. So always the best is saved to the last. And today, it really has shown that or if not we, but the organizers managed to save the best set for last.
Yeah, they did a great job in identifying that this would be the closest of the games. And, not just being the closest, but being 2 people who are absolutely insane when it comes to this game. You've had TheMista, who's just had an impressive career so far when it comes to AoE 4, consistently placing very well with tournaments. B, on the other hand, who is an up-and-coming player, but has been performing very well recently, obviously taking the crown off Hera in the Winner Stays On series. It's just looking, these guys both on the up, and I think that there would be no surprise if either of these guys got through. But I definitely think we'd all be surprised if we didn't see them both there at Berlin. And I guess that's just going to be a matter of time to see what happens, because it is only going to be one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it is going to be a heartbreaker for whoever loses this because, we expected Mista to get there in the end. And as we discussed, the pressure is on him. However, now that you have gotten 3 games away from Mista for B, you get the feel that you're so close. Like, B may have gotten into this set saying, okay, I'm gonna try my best. We'll have to see how I can perform, because I think he himself knew, even if he has a good self-confidence, he himself knew that he's up against one of the toughest players. Like, in fact, coming into this week, I probably would have said that my bet on qualifying is for Mista this weekend. Like, that's for sure, because he probably came in as the biggest candidate to qualify. And now you took away 3 games from Mista, so suddenly you feel that you're so close, and oftentimes that makes you shaky-handed. It's like, oh, just a tiny bit. It makes you feel like you want to overcommit to situations. Like, oh, I just need to send in my archers, kill 2 more villagers, and that might make him GG. And in many cases, these are the most difficult games to pull off. These ones where you're so close to your much desired goal.
Yeah, it's I think this one's going to be an absolutely incredible game. I mean, we have got two civilizations that are routinely considered very, very balanced when it comes to their matchup. It's not a mirror map, or mirror match rather. And I mean, it's Mongolia, Mongolian Heights. This map is, I guess, relatively even when it comes to its spawns. I think the main thing that we're going to be looking out for is relic distribution, but obviously when it comes to these two civs, they don't really care that much about relics. So, I mean, I honestly couldn't ask for a better matchup. I'm looking forward to it. We are going to be ending the day the same way that we started it, with an English and French matchup.
And what a matchup this is going to be, especially on Mongolian Heights. So what are we looking for in this game? Because this is really not a matchup that we see very common on this map. Are we really looking into a battle of hawks versus longbows, or just someone trying to control the river with hawks and trying to prevent longbows crossing? Or are we going to have something cheesy in here?
If we do have anything cheesy, you know exactly which side it's going to come out, because you've got the cheese Meister on the one side and you've got the standard Meister on the other.
And which is which? Because, like, legitimately, I think that Mista has just as much cheese in him as B. We've seen him pioneering that English horseman play, and there was a lot of cheese coming out of Mista as well. As you said, both of these players could bring up a trick from the bag of tricks out here. But with just 5 seconds to go, it's time for game number 7. The last ticket to Berlin is decided by this game.
Here we go. G'day, fellas, and welcome to the 7th and final game between TheMista, who spawns in on the south side of the map, playing as the French, and his opponent on the opposite side of the map, Lidakor. Who have we got?
It is the B coming in with the English, the much more meta pick for this map, spawning in on the red. Previous game was not so spectacular for him. Luckily for him, he has his town center placed right at the beginning for him, so he doesn't have to mess around placing it wherever he wants to.
Too soon, too soon.
It's gonna be a race for the sheep over here, because while this map is characterized by the river and the crossings in the middle, one thing that's often underappreciated is that you have a ton of sheep, especially on this outer rim, and you see that B already was pretty successful gathering 7 of them out there, and he's heading towards the other side of the map, walking towards those cliffs, and Mista is playing 1 scout, only being trailed by 1 sheep. Mista usually plays 1 scout. In fact, it was a surprise for me that he used 2 scouts in the Dark Age of game number 1, but last week, every opponent he faced, he played 1 scout, and their opponents went 2 scouts. And on this map, if there is any map where you can justify 2 scouts for either of these civilizations, that should be this map, because the amount of sheep that you can collect is gigantic, and you get the feel that B is coming in with a massive advantage here, whereas Mista is already in trouble with the amount of sheep that he managed to collect.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty, but fortunately, Mista finds finally some of the sheep. We're sitting at a minute 35, and I'm sure he's going, phew, I'm so glad I found those. So picking up 6 sheep, and now heading down towards this southern side as well. He's going to be able to pick up 3 sheep, so managing to, you know, at least get a couple sheep in his collection. But I just wanted to say, Lidakor, that in this 7th game, I'm incredibly excited for this. I think this is quite a fair matchup. This has been a relatively historic matchup that we've seen. What have you got? What have you spotted?
Oh, there's a second scout for Mista. I haven't spotted that the whole time. It was very sneaky, because I was looking for those scouts for a long time, and he's got at least 8 trailing him over there. So yeah. I guess crisis averted. It seems like he's gonna be fine with the sheep situation. For a long time, it looked pretty grim for him. That scout wasn't really successful either, but in the end, sheep numbers will be rather even.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for him now. But yeah, look, I'm incredibly excited for this game. We are ending this series in the same way that we started. It's an English versus French game. So back on Dry Arabia, geez, that was quite a while ago. How many hours ago was that? It must have been, what, 2-3 hours ago at least.
Maybe even 4.
Yeah, maybe even 4 hours potentially. But now here we are. And it's game number 7, and we've got ourselves a flip. 1 player playing the English, 1 player playing the French, and they've flipped it over. Mista now going to be dropping down his age up, going with the School of Cavalry. How's the other side going, Lidakor? Council Hall going to be happening today. No Abbey of Kings, unfortunately. I know we're all a little bit excited about the potential of an Abbey of Kings, but interestingly, no Abbey of Kings and no docks yet for either player.
No docks at all. And going back into game number 1, I said it was an English versus French matchup. A matchup where Mista was in great command of the English. So I wonder if he has just as good of a build for the French as he had with the English. He's building that School of Cavalry 4, will be scouted by B. And on the other side, Council Hall looking to be built with only 2 villagers, right? So quite a slow feudal age here for B, but he probably doesn't want to rush this anyways. He's heavy on the wood department, so he's gonna have either a second production building, likely a barracks, or potentially a delayed dock. I don't see a villager moving forward though, so I'm suspecting it's just the barracks.
This is weird. He's got 8 villagers on food, and he's only got 2 villagers on the council. I've got no idea what he's actually doing here. Oh, he's got to be going into a stable. There's no two ways about it, surely. You'd have to think he's doing stable with something like that. Like, it just seems... There's just not enough... I don't know. The ratio just seems off.
Yeah, it seems
you know what
off.
I mean? Like, it's like you're eating a cake and there's too much egg in it.
Oh, speaking of too much egg, that's a scout going down. Disaster for Mista. That's a very
Do not
costly
mess
scout.
with English town centers. They shoot a lot of arrows.
And it's a barracks. So I wonder if B just changed up his strategy based on the scout that he has spotted, because as you said, the balance was a little off, because if he wants to go for longbows and spears, he would be a little heavier on the wood department, but in the end he drops a barracks. Might have been caused by the fact that he spotted that scout. So he was like, okay, if Mista sees my eco balance, he might suspect I'm going cavalry. It's a possibility. He's voting off the crossings as we speak, and there is the dock for Mista, so things are intensifying in the middle as well.
Dock actually coming up. Interesting that he looked to go for a dock about 4 minutes 40, 4 minutes 50. So a delayed dock is going to be what he looks for. No fishing ship's going to be punished out here today. Obviously, that is one of the options. When you do scout your enemy, going for that fast dock and those fishing ship openings can very easily be punished by a tower, by a some aggressive longbowman. But Mista going to be playing the big brain game and looking to secure up the dock. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him get a Hulk out relatively soon as well. Take a look at his macro as well. It definitely indicates that he might be thinking about that.
And it's a big brain move. I'm starting to realize what he's doing. He's sending villagers to stone. And think about it this way. What is the civilization with the slowest army? Probably the English. What's the best way to keep them at bay? Make some hawks. If you can control that slow-moving army with just 2 hawks at these crossings, it is going to be impossible for B to cross, and that could allow you to go for a second town center boom.
He needs to be quick on getting this out, though. We can see that Mista still struggling a bit back at home. He's going to be dropping down the archery range, still yet to have enough resources to get out that Hulk. He's going to need 240 gold. He's got all that in the bank. Now finally going to be able to queue up this bad boy. He doesn't actually have the population for it, but he should be able to queue it up if he wished to do it. But we'll have a look at how B is playing.
He canceled the ranged for it, so he probably wants to queue it up, and he's like, okay, what's missing? He's not realizing that he's getting housed, he's rushing up a house right now, but those seconds are so precious right now, because if B is able to establish a foothold, he could be in trouble.
Yeah, this isn't the best right now for Mista. He is going to be trying his best. And yeah, I just got to say, I love the cute little, the cute little, what's it called? This bad boy, the palings right here out the front for B. They've vanished now, but I like it. It's just a very smart move from B, being very cute. But we'll check in with Mista. We'll see how he's doing. You mentioned earlier that he was potentially adding in a second town center. He's got 200 stone in the bank at the moment. I don't think this has been scouted out by B at this point either. So B going to be completely clueless. This dock, he's probably going to be scratching his head at this one as well. But when the Hulk comes out, he's going to be scratching a bit more than the head. That's for sure.
I think he's realizing what's going on. Horsemen from the French player, Hawks out here, he has to realize that something has to come down behind this one. He's not seeing archers right now, he's not seeing a lot of forces in general on land, so he has to realize that the idea is to hold the river with the Hawks. There's gonna be a dock attempted, but this is a window for Mista to kill that villager and deny that dock with the Hawk.
Yeah, this is going to be quite powerful. Hulk does come out. It's time for some spinning. It's time for some winning. And the Hulk indeed wins, slaughtering that villager. A giant ballista missile going straight through the chest of that villager. He regrets dropping down that dock immediately. And speaking of regrets, take a look at this. 3DB out the back of the base of Mista right now. He's got a scout sitting there. He spots the gold mine. He sees it's got 3,400 gold, and he's looking at it, and he's like, I don't know really what that means at this point. I don't think he's doing fast castle. He spots the archery range coming down. He spots the second archery range coming down as well. I don't think he knows about the stone yet.
Yeah, I don't think either. And he might find that very soon, but it's already too late. He lost most of his longbows that cross the river. There is one that makes it back home. 2 spearmen are moving up, and I think these spearmen will be the ones that are revealing that stone mine for him. He should be able to see that enough stone was mined for a second town center, and it's one of those situations where he's like, oh shoot, what do I do now?
Yeah, that's a big oh no moment, because when you spot your enemy and they are gathering stone, you're like, okay, that's fine. I can prepare for it. I know it hasn't come yet. When you spot the stone mine and it's got 300 stone missing on it, that is, oh shit. They've gathered 300 stone. They may have dropped down a second town center. How long have they had that for? I might be in trouble here.
And with the Hawks around, it's going to be impossible to pressure it. That's the magical thing here for Mista, that he also has the faster working French town centers, so even right now, he has a better villager count by 5, and that is just going to grow. So not only is he doing this with any civilization, he's doing it with the civ that probably benefits the most from that second town center because of that faster training. And of course, the Hawks will prevent the army from crossing. If B had a highly mobile army, like any kind of cavalry, this would be a smaller issue. But guess what? The English are just the slowest army civilization in the game, and that's why this is such a big brain move by Mista. He expected the English here, and knew very well that it will be difficult for the English to cross the river against Hawks.
Yeah. I was just sitting there thinking while you were talking. I was watching Mista play, and I said, okay, right now, if I'm seeing everything that B is seeing, what's the best thing that he can be doing if I'm him? Well, I know I can't fight H2. If I try and stick around and drop down another TC, it's going to be too slow. I'm just not going to get up in time. He's already got the TC on me, and he's going to get up to castle too quickly. He's got control of the river, so I'm not going to be able to push across it in H2. I need to go to the castle age. That's exactly what he's done. He identified it, dropping down the King's Palace now. I think this is a smart move. I would expect as soon as he gets up to the next stage, we may potentially see a siege workshop just put down immediately, maybe even just a single springald, and that will look to clear out this river. But obviously quite a big investment. That's 250 resources for the springald, 300 resources just for the siege workshop. So we'll see how he plays it and whether he looks to do it. But attacks happening all over the map at the moment. A little bit of a skirmish to the back of the base of Mista, a scout with a horseman. There was some spearmen getting into a fight with a wolf, and I heard a villager got harpooned in the chest.
Yeah, exactly. There was a fourth villager that was sent by B to the southern crossing to try and make a gate, so I guess he can cross with some sneak units, but that was intercepted. As you said, the best thing that B can do is get his own second town center up, which is the King's Palace, basically. So that is indeed the best solution for him. He actually rushed it up so hard that he didn't even place on any resources. It's just standing there in the middle of nowhere, which is not so ideal, but I guess he just wanted to get up to Castle Age as fast as possible. And as you said, Springolds is the good way to deal with Hawks now, especially because we're playing the patch where the Springolds will do a lot more damage to ships than they used to. So then now they have a bonus damage, and B tried to do some damage on that gold mine. In the end, he's gonna get punished by that wolf over there, not even the villagers.
Even Gaia is on the side of Mista today. They said, we want you to win, Mista, and we are going to bring everybody on board, but they've had a very quick change of heart. And have turned their attention toward the villagers, but do get taken out by those archers. But yeah, I mean, at this point in the game, I definitely feel like the advantage sits with Mista. Now, a lot of people might be watching this from the sidelines and thinking, oh no, it looks relatively even. And look, I'll be honest with you, it does. We've got 2 town centers up against the 2 town centers, but keep in mind, Mista's playing the French. These bad boys create villages faster than any other town centers in the world, except for the Chinese. Or the Holy Roman Empire.
And of course, you do have the cheaper eco tax as well. So it's much easier to afford a couple more economy upgrades over the English player over here. B is adding the English farms, which definitely helps. Would love to see a couple of fishing ships by Mista, and as I'm switching away over there, he's adding some. If you're not getting pushed on water, might as well add a couple of fishing ships, why not? He's on the way to Castle Age with the Guildhall. He has dropped 2 more stables, 2 more ranges, so he's up to 4 ranges, and he's mining stone like a madman. That's gonna be a keep placed quite soon, probably at one of the crossings.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that, but I reckon he's actually just going to drop a keep down. I suspect he's just going to drop a keep down in his base. The 2 archery range and the stable are placed absolutely perfect for that one. So yeah, you can put it right in between the archery range and the stable, and he can get great coverage in there and look to use that French bonus as those players always do. And you can see he's actually gathering up a heap of stone here. He's very close to 800 stone, as you mentioned. We could potentially see that keep getting put down on the crossing. But yeah, Mista doing a great job of just remaining in control. Siege Workshop now coming up for B, as we did allude to earlier. So he's going to be looking to potentially get out of Springled. I think the Mangonel probably outranges the Hulk, but it's just going to take a long time to actually kill it. Yeah.
Especially because you can, to a certain extent, juke away from those shots as well. So Springle just does a lot more. As you said, it's also an option for Mista to drop that keep inside his base to just supplement the production. We'll have to see if that's the plan. It's clear he wants a keep for himself. The question is he going to control the crossing, which will give him a little more safety, or is he focusing on production and will just drop it inside his base? He has a ton of production buildings out here. That's 4 archery ranges, 2 stables plus the School of Cavalry and the barracks as well. So he's just going to unleash that juggernaut economy that he built. Very similar to the first game out here. 69 villagers as opposed to 52. Very nice.
Yeah, he is. He's doing very nice with that, now heading up to 70. But you can see he's got enough stone to be fighting or to be dropping down that keep. He's definitely in control at this point. B is having a bit of a tough time. I'm going to be honest. I don't really like his position. He's going to need... I'm not going to say he's going to need a miracle, but it just seems like a difficult position to fight. Now we've got that Springald coming out. He's going to be able to force that Hulk away from the crossing. He's then going to be able to utilize that or be able to get his units across. But a nice little distraction coming in from Mista up towards the north here. He manages to take out one of the horsemen. Second horseman may potentially get taken out here as well, ever so slowly. He could be heading back around towards this Springald if he's not careful. But that Springle does fall back towards safety. And now it looks like Mista coming out with a huge force. Take a look at this. He is streaming out these resources. Or streaming out these units, rather.
And he hasn't dropped that keep yet, which makes me wonder if he actually wants to place it inside his base. Or maybe he wants to go super aggro with this. It's actually possible that he's realizing that he's got a big window here with superior numbers. And he could try to go for a super aggressive forward castle. He's sending in the knights to the left side once again. Distraction in the middle with the men-at-arms, and now the knights will pick off 1 or 2 villagers, and he just keeps grinding down the eco of the opponent here, and maintaining that 20-ish villagers difference.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. Now, obviously, the English do have the classic English farms, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's not going to be enough to make up that 22 villager difference that there is at the moment. B continuing to struggle, getting run around a little bit. It's almost like he's playing up against GUA at this point. He's getting run around so much. But now we'll take a look over towards Mista. He's still sitting here with 900 stone in the bank. I'm wondering exactly where this is going to go. But yeah, as you mentioned, we could potentially see a forward castle coming out for him. Still no castle drop down in the base.
Did you see those knights passing that wall over there? There was a tile missing for B. B tried to trap those against the wall with the spears, but, well, the wall wasn't finished, there was a tile missing, and the knights get away, get another villager before they would be taken down. And look at the force that Mista is massing. His army is just gigantic. Numbers are rather close right now,
really
but
big.
It's increasing rapidly for Mista, and it looks like Mista is going to end up dropping that keep in the end. It looks like he was just too busy on the other side of the river, so he didn't have the time to drop it up until now.
It's misplaced. My obsessive-compulsive disorder is really starting to kick in right now. It needs to be 1 tile down and 1 tile across, and it would be perfectly placed. Actually, might need to be 2 tiles down, but yeah, that's all right. You know, you can't win them all when you're sitting at game number 7 in this series that will potentially take you into a tournament that's going to win $100,000, or at least your share of $100,000.
Yeah, and once Mista gets in there, he's gonna have a good shot at taking down any of those guys in there. So, as weird as it sounds like, it's not like he's gonna have no chance after getting in if he gets in here. So, right now the biggest challenge for him in regards to N4C is just winning this game, and he's in a great position to do that. Because B is on the back foot, and Mista's assembling a very scary and large army with the Veteran Royal Knights, the Archers, the Men-at-Arms, and those numbers for Mista are just increasing so rapidly.
One of the things I want to talk about is opportunity cost. 3DB has responded by the water presence of Mista by investing 300 wood into a siege workshop and 1,000 resources into Springalds. These units, for all intents and purposes, are useless against every other unit that is out here. They excel against siege, but there is no siege out on the field right now. There is only warships, and as a result, it means that these resources are wasted. These could have been anything. They could have been longbows, they could have been men-at-arms, but instead they just go down like nothing, and we begin to see the push coming in right now. Mista trying to make his money. The Knights begin to come in towards the front line. You can see a pretty decent concave here. Villagers getting in on the action as well. It's just a huge force of units that are being pushed up towards his base now. Massive amounts of longbows. Mista is coming online, and he's looking incredibly strong. I think this might be it, Lidakor. As the score begins to build up, we see the units continuing to stream in. A monastery's been placed down for 3DB, but I feel like he's going to need a lot more than prayer if he wants to win this game, because Mista is definitely taking him to school right now, overwhelming his opponent. This is a series that went the entire way. We had a 7-game series, and 3DB taps out, eliminated. Mista is going to Berlin, baby, and we are doing it live.
What a set this was. I mean, unbelievable. And really, we've talked about this throughout this set, that Mista could have issues with attrition. He himself said that he suffers in these very long sets, and boy, oh boy, was this a super long one. And he delivered potentially his best game in the last. We've talked about who is going to bring something out of the bag of tricks, and it was Mista. French versus English, but on a match that doesn't really have these civilizations frequently played. And Mista had a strategy. This is something that makes him stand out from other players, many other players. Many other players have strategies for the first 3, 4, 5 games, but very few have strats set up for all 7. And Mista had it. Mista knew exactly that English is going to be the pick, and he had his game plan coming into this one, executed it with perfection, and ultimately heads to Berlin, and the final ticket available. It couldn't get closer than this one, though. Like, this was an absolute nail-biter, a worthy ending of the N4C Qualifiers.
Yeah, absolute insanity coming out from the Mista. I just want to compliment him on that single Hulk. I feel like that Hulk is one of the greatest baits in history. You force your enemy to make all of this response to your Hulk on the water to try and clear this potential threat on the water, and they invest all these resources into it, and you're like, I wasn't even going to make artillery or siege anyway, so it doesn't even bother me. It's such a smart move. And then he just overwhelms his opponent. Huge amount of military just came in using that French bonus from the castle. Incredibly well played from the Mista.
Really well played indeed, and one of the things that makes Mista a special player is that his game plan are often just very, very clean, and this was a very clean game plan as well. And it started out rough for him. If you remember, he had a tough time gathering sheep at the beginning, he had a tough time affording that first Hawk, and it seemed like B was gonna cross. Like, remember that Mista was housed for a long time, he didn't have the wood for it, started building an arch range, had to cancel it, so it was a rocky start in game number 7, but the game plan ultimately yielded the victory. And if you just look at the villager build up here for Mista, it tells you the game plan and tells you how well it worked out for him. He ends the game with 72 kills to 27 deaths. As you said, the Springles that he forced out from B were of minimal effect, the monastery was useless for B, and really, at the end of the day, everything that Mista invested into showed on the battlefield, whereas that wasn't the case for B at all in this final game.
Yeah. Unfortunately for B, it really felt like attrition may have gotten to him. Mista just managing to get one up on him. For those of you guys watching on YouTube, I hope you've enjoyed this series. It's been an absolute thrill casting with you today, Lidakor. So thank you very much for joining me. And for all you guys watching on YouTube, make sure you go check out Lidakor. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you for watching. What a set. What an absolute set.
Like, might have been one of the best sets I've ever seen, because this really was back and forth. We had some somewhat shaky-handed games here from Mista. We had some very dominant games from either of these players. And at the end of the day, as I said, I really feel like the game that shouldn't have been lost that easily for B is going to be the Mongol Mirrors. Because now that we're looking at this overall score, every single game was rather close. And B, with that loss out there, or at least we have to mention, though, that to a certain extent, the fact that he won that Boulder Bay game so easily made up for that. So 1-1. In the end, it's so weird to think back to that Boulder Bay game as if that was like 4 hours ago.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I want to just see how far he moved his town center. So let's have a look. Mista places his town center at the very beginning of the game. It goes down at 15 seconds, probably closer to 14, but we'll call it 15. On the other side of the map, what time does it go down? Let's have a look. 15 seconds versus... Oh, God, this is going to be quite a drive. I hope you guys have got your neck pillows.
It was 3 villagers worth of time, so that's what you have to calculate with. And indeed...
Yep, it was at actually it went down at 59 seconds. So during that time, Mista has already made 2 villagers. He's on to his 3rd villager. He's already a quarter through his villager when the first villager comes out for B. And he doesn't even open with a villager. He actually opens with a scout. So Mista he's quite literally 3 villagers ahead with B going the scout opening into 40 seconds delay. That's wild. That is absolutely wild.
And if you look at the start of the game, B saw the wood line. He saw it on the left side, so he knew about that.
He was greedy. He gambled.
He wanted to go for something more.
Yep.
And in some cases, like let's say for Mista, his forest spawns, like the big forests out there, were a little closer. So if Mista tried to do the same thing, this would have worked better. And maybe B just got very unlucky with the map seed, but there is absolutely no guarantees on this map on how the big forest spawns. So you can't just say, hey, the map seed is bugged, I don't have any big forests close to me, because there is no guarantees on that. And if he starts going in the other direction, he would have had some big forests. He just got terribly unlucky. And as you said, he decided to go a little too greedy out there. And, well, it backfired quite badly.
Indeed it did. But speaking of backfire, it's time for me to get on my motorbike and scoot on out of here as it goes pop, 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 and backfires. I'm going to see who else is streaming at the moment. I don't know